Should be live in just a second. Alrighty. 1 second, guys. I still have to, because my hair is just kind of all over the place at this moment. I just have to fix this window capture. We're going to first, if you're joining us really quick, we're actually going to be talking about free agency news first. I'm going to invite my friend Brad really quick to kind of talk some NBA news. But let me get him on Discord really quick to kind of talk about this stuff. So if you're joining us, guys, it is an absolute wonderful time to be a free agent. It's an absolutely wonderful time to be an NBA basketball fan. There is so much news and rumors, so much trade, so many things that we're interested in that it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun situation going on here, ladies and gentlemen. So let me invite my friend really quick to this Discord server, and we will get going in just 1 second. Hopefully we have some people in here. We don't at this moment, but come hang out for just like a little bit. Like I said, I'm gonna invite my friend onto the Discord server to kind of talk some NBA news and rumors, talk about this whole crazy free agency, and don't mind the laundry. I just folded. You can rate my skills and how my folding is. So I will. How about that? You can rate my folding skills if you are in the comment section. Not sure what the situation is looking like, but let's see here. Want to invite people. Let's see here. How do I invite people? Let's go to here. Go to Gmail. Right, yeah. Hopefully this should be good. Let me let Brad know I sent him that. Still nobody in the chat, so we're just gonna kind of hang out a little bit until I see us popping a little bit more in the live stream. It's gonna be a fun one, ladies and gentlemen. Like we're absolutely talking some crazy news and rumors right now. I mean, as we're talking, there is some absolutely wonderful news and rumors pertaining to Boston Celtics fans, and so I'll make sure to address that when we can. But let me invite my friend really quick. Let him know that. Let him know that I sent it out. Let us know. Let me see this. Let's see here. So once we get my friend Brad, we'll be discussing a little bit more free agency. But why don't we just do a little bit right now while we're waiting for everybody to kind of join in the stream. I know that it's a little bit late night for you guys on the East Coast right now, 7 o'clock. You're getting home, you're eating dinner. But I decided, let's start a live stream. Let's start talking some NBA news. We already have one person in here. Shout out to that person. Let's kind of look at this. This, to me, is the most interesting one. The fact that Gordon Hayward and the Boston Celtics are looking to agree to pushing the deadline of his extension contract to about tomorrow, about 5 p.m. to 3 p.m. On Thursday. League sources told ESPN. There's so many interesting news and rumors. Originally, when Gordon Hayward was a free agent, and he was deciding which team to sign up to, one team in particular that was interested in him was actually the Miami Heat. They were one of the teams that was trying to get him, and I think right now, I think it's between him, and we're also looking to trade him to the Atlanta Hawks. I'm assuming we're trying to trade up to get to top 6. I think we like somebody in this draft that we're going to be looking to see like who's going to be that guy. But nevertheless, this is like an ongoing situation. Let me get Hoops hype up really quick just to kind of also talk some of that stuff as well. Hawks trying to land Gordon Hayward. I think like I said, I think this is probably the biggest one. Chris Haynes, maybe not as well known to breaking news and rumors, but definitely well known in the NBA, kind of inside reporter news and rumors type of guy. They're looking to acquire him. I'm curious to see what it'll be. Atlanta is also seeking to get Rajon Rondo. We see that the Celtics, there's no interest for the Celtics on James Harden. Could that be a smoke and gun type of thing? Like, where there's smoke, there's a fire. We know that, the Warriors are trying to make some moves. But, man, this is going to be a fun one to talk about. Hopefully you guys are ready to talk some news and rumors, and then we will get right into the NBA draft. There'll be so many mock drafts that we'll talk about. And let me just make sure that my friend can get on. So while we wait for him to kind of get on and talk about the draft, like I said, let's talk about some more news and rumors. Like, I think the Gordon Hayward one is very interesting. Gordon Hayward is one of those type of players that unfortunately just does not fit because we have so many of those type of players on our team already, whether it's Jaylen Brown, whether it's Jason Tatum, no matter what player it is, we have those type of players on our team already. So I think it's going to be interesting to find out, like, what we're going to be going after. I think that's going to be the interesting thing for me as we continue to look and see what's going on in the draft.
We saw what he did in the FIBA under 20.
This is like a Denny of Asia type of situation. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be a fun one. I mean, like I said, Gordon Hayward right now just does not fit our team in any way, shape, or form, to the point where I think we have to get rid of him and acquire an asset, whether it's a center, whether it's the sixth pick. I don't know if we're trying to package that sixth pick for like some superstar player. But I do think it's time to move on from Gordon Hayward. As much as I loved him in Utah, as much as I think he could be a decent player for us, unfortunately, just Gordon Hayward right now is not he's not in there right now. What do you think about the 2022 process? That one's still a wait and see. I have to give it another year or two before I give my full breakdown on Tony. That's gonna be in 2 years. I'll give you the full breakdown on him. But yeah, nevertheless, guys, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a big one, and I'm still waiting. Okay. So I'm just going to have to figure out something where we can talk. Hey, Supreme Air, nice. 2 hours, wow. I still need to do my workout for tonight, so I should have done it earlier this morning, but I just was so tired from last night. Let me see if I can help my friend Brad get on here. Let me see here. Oops, no, I don't want that one. I want maybe here. Let's see if we can get my friend Brad on here. See if we can invite him really quick. Let's see here. See if we can send this out really quick to him. Oops. Let me make sure I'm not skipping the chat here. We got Christmas. Christ. Wait, Supreme Gamer, where do you Where do you cycle hills or what do you do when you cycle? Oh my goodness. All right. All these people got to go. Y'all got to leave. Christ. Let's see if we can just play a little bit of lo-fi beats really quick while we get our friend Brad in here to kind of talk. Let's see here. Get this going. We're going to get this going really quick. Just some background music until we get my friend Brad in here to kind of talk some sports. We'll see what happens here. Oh, wait. Looks like there's Brad. Okay. Yep, I see you. Okay. I should be in the chat. Cycling around the cemetery. Interesting. All right. We got you, Brad?
What's up?
All right. Let me put you in here now. Okay. Let me pause the music and see if I can hear you. All right. Talk, Brad.
What it do?
All right. We're in.
Go.
Oh, dang, Supreme Gamer. Cycle around a park where it's uphill and downhill. Ugh. Uphill is just, like, I remember taking those cycling classes in college, and those were just, like, those were actually pretty fun. They were a little brutal sometimes, but actually not too bad. I got college credits for it, so I can't complain too much. But, all right. Brad, free agency. We got to talk about it. It's one of those, it's the most wonderful time of year, isn't it?
Oh yeah, craziest time of the year.
I mean, from even the eve where I was talking on here with, I think with Tyree, Supreme Gamer, like and Eoy, like some of the guys that are regulars here in the chat. We were talking. I was kind of talking about the stuff like in the eve, with Chris Paul making a move, with Dennis Schroeder making a move to the Lakers. I mean, now it's like everything is just turning upside down right now. Everybody is trying to play catch up to the LA Lakers right now. And there are some big moves being made right now. Hey, what's up, Chris? How you doing? Brad, I want you to start off with this whole thing. What's been the most surprising move to you in this free agency class so far? Or what's been surprising to you in this free agency?
So far, I would say Drew Holiday going to the Bucks. I really thought the Nuggets would try to land him, or the Nets even, just because they need more defense. I thought the Bucks would go after someone like Chris Paul because they need the clutch scoring. I think Drew makes their team a lot better, but I don't know if he's exactly what they need to win a ship.
Yeah, I mean, like kind of talking about the Drew Holiday trade. Like 3 first round picks, if I'm not mistaken.
3 first-round picks and 2 pick swaps. Yeah,
I mean, like what? Do you think Drew Holiday is worth 3 picks?
I mean, okay, so the way I look at it is it's not Drew Holiday being worth 3 picks. It's keeping Giannis happy being worth 3 picks.
But I mean,
because
no, go ahead.
I mean, like, no, I don't think Drew's worth 3 first-round picks, but they're doing it because it's either we do something to keep Giannis happy and show that we're about winning here, or we lose a generational talent and are stuck being the 12th seed and bad for God knows how long. So if it's between a pick or 3 of them in 2025, 2023, whatever, and Giannis, I ship them all out to make Giannis happy.
Yeah, I think the way I look at it, Brad, is more like even if we lose Giannis, our team isn't as bad as it was if we would have just like not signed anybody and just kept the same team. I think that's more where the Bucks are going because, I mean, to be honest with you, like those guys are not going to make Giannis want to stay in Milwaukee. I still think he's going to leave. I don't think that he's going to be necessarily happy with, even though I love Bogdanović as a player, he's limited in some aspects. And so is Drew Holiday. Even though Drew Holiday is a good player, you're just not getting like the all-star Drew Holiday that he was like in years past. I don't think at this point in his career you're getting that type of Drew Holiday, which is sad because I think when he was at his peak, he was like an amazing player. But to be honest with you, I'm just not convinced with the team right now, and it's just frustrating. I think if I'm Giannis, I'm frustrated because like I want a superstar player. I don't want no more star players.
Yeah. I mean, getting like a Bradley Beal would have been the dream fit for that team, but I guess to look at it this way, they did the best they could with getting Drew, and he is on an expiring contract. So if they lose the next year or this upcoming season, and say let's Drew leaves, at least they open up cap space since they got rid of Eric Bledsoe's contract and George Hill's contract. So if they manage to somehow make Giannis stay and pitch to him that we can lure some big free agent other than you in the 2021 class, then it might be worth it.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I think it's one of those things where we'll see what happens with this Bucks team. Are they the top contenders at this point? That's going to be a big wait and see. Definitely not convinced that they'll be the biggest guy there. Other than that, I mean, let's kind of move on to also kind of the biggest storyline going into this is, of course, Gordon Hayward. I know that the Celtics and Gordon Hayward have extended the deadline for his player option to exercise it until tomorrow at 3 p.m. What do you make of that move? Like, what do you think is going to be going on with the Celtics and Hayward? Like, what's the scheme going on? Because I know that the Celtics want to get into that top 5 or top 6 for some reason. I'm not a big fan of it, but what do you make of it, Brad?
Yeah, I mean, the Celtics wanting to give up Hayward to get into this draft really doesn't make sense to me, because what could they possibly get from this draft that's going to help them win a championship? I mean, if their thinking is they want to unload Gordon's contract since he has that ginormous player option and he's super injury prone, so they're better off trying to just rebuild again, I guess. Danny Ainge's thinking is a little weird, but if I was the Celtics, I would trade Gordon for another proven player, not for this draft class. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I want to say that they're using that 6th pick that they're going to trade up for like some superstar player. There's no way in my mind that they're going to keep that pick and sign one of these guys. I mean, the 6th pick, like according to many mock drafts or some mock drafts, it could be either the center from USC. It could be Halliburton. Like, there's just so many different avenues that the Celtics could go down if they get that the top 6 pick. But to be honest with you, like you said, like what is this 6th pick really going to do for us in the long term, in the scheme of things, when we're trying to win a championship, when we're trying to actually get to the conference final and win it, and not stay in this kind of mediocrity? I kind of called it an oven baked process my whole time when they were signing all these players, because it took a while, right? Because I mean, I kind of made the same kind of analysis when I talked about the Thunder acquiring all these picks. You can have all these picks, you can have the picks to the moon and back, but if you don't do anything with those picks, if you don't with this team, like if you don't draft the guys, or if you don't kind of what's the right term, like if you don't get something for those picks, because you need a veteran player and a veteran leadership type of team, like it doesn't matter with these draft picks. So to be honest with you, I'm looking to see, hopefully we can get some sort of situation where we actually get a really good player out of it, and that's what I'm praying for at this point. It's a hope and a prayer.
I think Danny Ainge has been sitting on those picks for too long, and he needs to do something. Teams are like, it's an arms race right now. Teams are loading up trying to, like you said, catch up to the Lakers, and the Celtics can't even catch up to the Raptors yet. So they got a lot of work to do over there.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be one of those things where we'll see what happens with the Boston Celtics. Like I said, very interesting that Gordon Hayward will be pushing his deadline for his player option. I mean, if he's getting a bigger contract or some sort of contract that's going to allow him to get more money, I mean, good for him, man, but I just don't see it, in my opinion. But
I also don't see why the Hawks would do it either.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we'll talk about next, is like, the Atlanta Hawks, you stifle, like you talked about in the group chat with me and you, it's like, you stifle Cam Reddish, you stifle Hunter. Like, what's the point of adding Hayward to that team?
Exactly. I guess maybe just to appease Trae Young, because if they added Gordon, they'll win a couple more games, but it's not like they would make noise in the playoffs or anything. And really, in the long run, you're hurting yourself because Gordon isn't in your team's future plans. So.
Yeah. Supreme Gamer, we will get to that question about the Warriors, what they'll do with that pick, probably around the mock draft time, which will be later on in the stream. But then you also talked about the Bucks having a good starting lineup, but literally have no bench. They have no cap space. That's concerning for them. I mean, it's true. I mean, the Bucks don't really have much space to go out and do something unless they trade some of those guys away. I think like we talked about, Brad, like the Bucks are kind of in this weird scenario where I don't think they're necessarily looking to. It doesn't look like they're trying to build a championship roster, but they're trying to acquire pieces so that when Giannis eventually leaves, or if he just decides to go without anything, that they have a decent team when they come.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they'll lose Drew for nothing and try and flip Middleton, but who's really going to want to take Middleton on that awful contract? I don't. Because you have to think, if Giannis leaves, you have to think Middleton's going to request a trade unless he wants to be the star in Milwaukee.
Yeah. What time's the draft? The draft is tomorrow, like at 5, if I'm not mistaken. And like I said, we'll talk about that more towards the end of the stream. But Brad, let's kind of look at some other news and rumors. Rajon Rondo was also a free agent this time around. He declined his option with the Lakers. Where do you think his best fit is, and what team do you foresee Rajon Rondo going to?
As much as it pains me to say, I think it's the Clippers. I think that's his best fit because they desperately need a playmaker. But he could just want to get a bunch of money, and the Hawks have been rumored to throw like $15 million at him per year or something for 2 years. So it really depends on what he wants. If he wants to go and win or try to win, he could go to the Clippers. If he just wants to get paid, he can go to the Hawks.
Yeah. I think Rondo, I would love for him to come back to the Celtics and be that sort of player that we need as like a veteran leadership. I think that's kind of what the Celtics are missing in general at this point, is that we don't have veteran leadership, and I think Rondo on our team would also be a player that we could potentially have help us do that. And that's something that I'm hoping that we can see, but I'm not too confident in that, and I think that he'll most likely end up on the Clippers because I think he wants to play in LA. I think he likes the city of LA, but I think that he wants a little bit more money, and I think the Clippers can give him that. And Chris, yeah, basketball is canceled for us, so you're good on that aspect. Did you hear about this John Wall trade that's creeping up? That Sham tweeted, Brad? I
saw that, and I basically just read it as, so Bradley Beal is going to request a trade at the trade deadline.
Yeah, I mean, like, what do you make? I mean, like, John Wall for Russell Westbrook. I mean, does that even make any sense?
Nah, that trade doesn't make a lick of sense. They're basically, I mean, Russ is better, but both are limited shooting-wise. Both are ball dominant. It's basically a barely upgraded version of John Wall fit with Bradley Beal. It's not going to make that team a lot better.
Yeah, I just think that you're adding John Wall to the Houston Rockets. I mean, what does that really do for your team? That does nothing, in my opinion. It doesn't really excite me. It doesn't really give me like this sort of like I don't even know what to call it. But like John Wall, like it's just he had so much hype going into 2011 or 2010. I can't remember when he got drafted. And there was so much hype for him. I think I remember in high school. Watching the mixtapes, kind of watching him dominate, doing the John Wall dance. Like, it was fun, but I don't know. It just seems like basketball has kind of slipped away from him at this point. It's just...
I mean, to be fair, when I saw that trade pop up from Shams, honestly, I think they should just run it back with John because I've seen a couple videos of John, and I know that, these open gym videos are a lot different than the NBA. There's that one gym in New York where everybody looks like a 99 overall. But he does look good. Like, I will say his jumper looks different. His mechanics look different, which is all that matters, really, because before he wouldn't even change his mechanics to try and make his jumper better. So the fact that he's repeatedly shooting different means he's been putting work on it, and hopefully it translates to the NBA. And if he can come in with some semblance of a jumper, it makes the game easier for him and Bradley Beal.
Gotcha. And Nay Row X, and hopefully I pronounced your name right. The draft tomorrow is at 5 p.m. But if you're talking about the draft for us, we're going to be doing it probably a little bit later. We just want to kind of go over some free agent stuff right now at this moment, and we will get to it and eventually. But yeah, Brad, going back to your point about John Wall, I mean, if like I saw some of the open gyms, I think was it with like Chris Paul, James Harden, and those guys, I believe they were playing at some. I don't know. It's not a New York gym, but they're playing at some sort of open gym where everything's open at this point because lockdowns are coming back again. But Yeah, I mean, like John Wall, like to be honest, he still to me does not look in shape. I think when I think of John Wall back in 2011 when he was like in his prime, like actually, which is crazy to think that his prime was like that. I think that's his prime. But
Yeah.
I think that I think he just had a different motor, and now it's like I don't even know what motor he has right now. I think a new change of scenery for John Wall would actually do him wonders, but I just don't know if this trade makes sense for the Houston Rockets because it's like, yeah, you get John Wall, but I don't really think it really adds much to your team in terms of like what you're like. I don't know what direction the Rockets go in now if they're trying to, trade away all these guys. I think that they're trying to create create a new atmosphere. I don't know. I mean, what do you make of that? Like where the Rockets' direction is and where they should go.
I mean, from what I've seen with that organization, they don't really know what they're doing because Tillman Fertitta is their owner. Like the reason he traded Chris Paul was because he just wanted this, something fresh, something new. He didn't even put any consideration into the fit with Harden
Yep.
and Westbrook. So that's why he traded Chris. And look at their team now, and now Russ has no value. So, and Russ has no value now because of the terrible fit that he was with Harden. They traded away their center and everything. So the way I see it is they're just trying to get as best as they can for Russ. I mean, because if you trade him to the Hornets, you're going to get a bunch of young Hornets players, which isn't going to make your team much better or even that good for a rebuild. If you trade him to the Knicks, you're going to get basically the same thing. So with John Wall, at least he's coming off of injury. He's motivated. He's been working. And then if you can trade Harden too, maybe you can package John and whatever you get from Harden into like a solid team or a solid rebuild.
Yeah, I mean, like looking at like even going to James Harden, like we see all these trades going around for like Drew Holiday. How many picks was given up for him? I don't even want to know how many picks you have to give up for James Harden. I know that I know he's not like what he was a couple years ago, but still, that's a superstar player that you're getting rid of, and I just like it's gonna be crazy to think about like all the draft picks and all the stuff you have to give up to get him. I don't know. Like I'm
gonna
not
have to give up Paris and Spencer, maybe Jared Allen or Taurean Prince, and some picks.
Like that's just way too much, man. Like I understand. Like I think a lot of these teams that are trading for the picks are really hoping for that 2021, 2022, 2023 class, which is supposed to be one of the better classes that we've seen in a minute. Especially better than this class, which we'll talk about later. I know I got to keep plugging it in there, but we still got to plug it in so you guys know that we are actually doing a mock draft, or kind of talking about looking at different mock drafts, what we think of it, and kind of giving our analysis and opinion on it. But I think another kind of avenue we can go down, Brad, for free agency is this sort of Joel Embiid trade rumors that are going to emerge. According to some sources via the New York Times, the early signals is that Philly is going to be that Daryl Morey is going to be giving Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid every chance to work together until they eventually trade one of them. I mean, to be honest with you, I think they should do it right away, get the most value you can for one of them. But in your opinion, Brad, it seems like you're in agreement with me about the trade. Like, which player would you want to trade if you had to pick between the two?
It depends on what I was trying to do. If I'm trying to build a championship team in Philly, I would trade Ben Simmons just because I think it's easier to build around Embiid, somebody who knows all his skills and stuff. Ben's kind of still trying to find himself with the shooting. And his team needs to be like really specifically built to him with just a bunch of shooters and 3-and-D people. But with Embiid, you can put in a playmaking wing, which they kind of already almost have with Alec Burks, but that's like, a lesser version of what I mean. You can get a couple good playmaking guards. It's easier to build around Embiid for a championship team. Plus, he's more talented than Ben. But if I'm trying to rebuild in Philly, then I would rebuild around Ben and trade Embiid because you get a bigger return.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at right now is that, like, I honestly think that, like, if you're, like, because, there's also rumors that Philadelphia is also interested in James Harden as well. Like, what, like, do you think, like, James Harden and Joel Embiid are a better fit than, like, Ben Simmons and James Harden if that was to be a trade?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, for sure. The spacing with Harden and Embiid would be ridiculous. Embiid would get so many open looks. You have to double both of them, so it'd make basketball way easier for everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, there's also we have someone here in the chat. Could the Wizards not trade Wall and Beal for Harden? No, because the money for both Beal or for both Beal and Wall is just too much compared to Harden's contract. I mean, maybe if Harden would have signed that extension, they might have been able to do it, but I think if he signs that extension, he's not able to kind of move until like December or something like that. It's some rules like that.
Also, I feel like the Wizards know that they would have the upper hand in that trade, so they wouldn't. Because Bradley Beal's value is at an all-time high right now. So if anything, I would offer Bradley Beal and like a second-round pick for Harden. I wouldn't give up John Wall too.
Yeah, I think that's just too many. That's just two really good players to give up for just one superstar player, and I don't think that like when you look at that, like then the Wizards are left with like nothing. They're left with Harden, and it's just gonna be him by himself with like Rui.
Dribbling the air out of the ball, stifling Rui's development. No, thank you.
Yeah, it's just not something that we're looking forward and interested in. But Brad, kind of going back, like, okay, so let's say that the 76ers do trade away Joel Embiid. Where do you think Joel Embiid should end up?
The best fit for him is definitely the Golden State Warriors. It pains me to say that since I'm a Lakers fan and I know how much trouble that team would give us. But if they can figure out a way to keep Steph and Clay, which they would obviously do if they're going to sign Embiid, that's his best fit. They need a big man desperately. He's good at kicking the shooters. It'd just be beautiful basketball, really.
Yeah, I just don't want to give the Warriors another Infinity Stone to kind of have another super team.
Yeah, hey, exactly, yeah. I don't need to see Steph, Clay, and Embiid together.
What do you think about like Joel Embiid going to the 70s? Or sorry, well, he is on 76ers. But what do you think of Joel Embiid going to like the Boston Celtics? I know that this would never happen because Boston and 76ers rivalry is just too great, and I think that they will never, ever, ever trade. But what do you make of that fit?
I mean, that fit would be perfect because that's also what Boston needs. They need a big man desperately, and if depending on what Boston would have to give up, but assuming they keep their stars like Tatum and even Marcus Smart, if they can keep someone like him, I think that team would be the favorites in the East easily.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I'm hoping, that this package deal that we can get, that we can land one of these bigs. I think a well-known viewer on the channel, Tyrese, was kind of talking about like Miles Turner might be someone that we might trade for. I kind of said Vucevic, which I think a lot of people will probably laugh at. But
I gotta laugh at that one.
Well, I think he's not a bad player. I think for what the Celtics need. I mean, I think there's a lot of players that the Celtics can get rid of and cut bait with Hayward being one of those. But I mean, this is just such an interesting situation and things that are coming. I just really want to quickly look at Twitter really quick and see if there's any other news and rumors kind of coming out while we're discussing stuff on the channel. Do you have any kind of hints or information? You got any tidbits out there that's coming out, Brad?
I wish. I just saw an alert. Something said the Houston Rockets are unwilling to trade Westbrook without receiving assets like young talent or first-round picks. So would that John Wall trade not go through?
I don't think that one would.
If they're only looking for young assets or young talent and first-round picks. The sad part is I don't even know if Russ is worth more than like one first-round pick anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, Russ, as painful as it is to say, he's kind of going out the way of Allen Iverson, in my opinion. Like, really good player. The problem with Iverson and Westbrook at this point in their careers, like at the similar point, is that, you know, Iverson was unwilling to change his game in order to fit in with today's NBA. Not only that, but also to fit in with the team. I think right now, I feel like Westbrook, all he really cares about, to be honest with you, Brad, is that he cares about his triple-doubles, he cares about his stats, and just wants to be on the highlight reel and just kind of make plays. Which I think that's the reason why the New York Knicks are interested in him, and I think that's kind of, there's a mutual interest between those two teams. But that's kind of my gut feeling and kind of my overall feeling about Westbrook. I think obviously an immense talent. I think he's a hard worker. I love Westbrook, but the vibes I'm getting from him right now is that he doesn't want to commit to working on the team because apparently there was rumors that he was really upset with his role in Houston, which was you're already shooting a ton of shots. So I don't know what else he wants more.
He wants his triple doubles and his numbers for sure.
Yeah, it's just sad to see. I mean, for a guy that's so talented, it sucks to know that that's kind of the route that he wants to go to. It's just, I don't know. It's sad in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I wish he had worked on his game more so that because I feel like he's almost forced to take this route. Right? Any contender you put him on gets worse,
Yeah.
So, for him, the best thing he's good at is being a floor raiser. I think he's one of the best floor raisers in NBA history. Like you could put him on some of the worst teams ever, and he probably takes you to the playoffs at least.
Exactly.
But if you put him on a team with other good players, he's probably the worst player there.
Mm-hmm. Sean, these are the four draft picks that we have. We have the 14th, the 26th, the 30th, and the 47th. I'm assuming that a couple of we have to trade all of these, like especially these three. I think the top three have to go in order for us to even get somebody that we want, because I just don't like at this point what it's looking like at 14th. We're going to be taking Precious out of Memphis, which I don't think is necessarily a bad pick. It's just like we need players that are proven. We can't be taking chances on these young rookie players anymore.
Mm-hmm.
No, we're not going to.
Yeah, Danny Ainge has been doing that for a while.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of the thing I talked about. Maybe we can talk about it too, Brad. Your kind of opinion and take on the Chris Paul trade. I kind of made the analysis, like I talked about with the Thunder, is that it's the same thing as the Boston Celtics. They need to be careful about acquiring all these draft picks because, we saw what happened when the Thunder had all those draft picks years ago when they were the Supersonics and they got James Harden, they got Kevin Durant, they got Westbrook, and ultimately they got left with nothing. Man, it is really raining hard.
I feel I put that on the ownership instead of the GM because ownership didn't want to pay Harden, which is just tragic since, Seattle would have, tech company, they definitely would have had the money to pay him. He just didn't want to. And now he's probably learned his lesson. He had 3 MVPs on his team. Probably would have won a championship the year after losing in the finals. So if anything, he's probably learned to be patient and see the process through, especially looking at teams like Philly that have gone through the process and then,
still in it,
tanked it. Yeah, they're still in it because they kicked the guy out who started the process. Elton Brand came in there and destroyed everything that Hinkie built pretty much. So if I'm the owner of the Thunder, I would let Sam Presti go through his process, especially since he keeps repeatedly showing you that he's trying to make up for that Harden blunder. That trade should have never happened.
I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, oh my goodness, it's raining hard. I don't know if it's raining hard where you're at, Brad, but it's like pouring right now over here.
Oh yeah, it's pouring, man.
So hopefully, if you guys are driving in the greater North Seattle area, you guys are driving safe, especially in this crazy weather. But yeah, kind of going back to your point, Brad, I think let's kind of talk about it. Chris Paul for the Suns. Good trade or bad trade for both teams? Like, what's your grade for each team, Suns and the Thunder?
I say good trade for both teams. Hurt Kelly Oubre had to be a part of it, but for the Suns, I give them an A, and for the Thunder, I give the Thunder an A too, just because each team got what they're looking for. The Suns are trying to make the playoffs and keep Devin Booker happy. I think CP3 guarantees they'll make the playoffs. I think Devin Booker will average 30 points next year because he doesn't have to do everything for his team. Ayton will look better offensively, having Chris set him up, and the defense for the team is going to be just phenomenal with Chris kind of being the spearhead point guard general that he is. And then with OKC, they got Kelly Oubre, who fits their mold perfectly, 6'7" athletic wing. Sam Presti loves those. They got like 10 of those. And then they got a bunch of picks, which is what they're trying to do in this rebuild. So I think it worked perfectly. You get Kelly Oubre, who's a super young, super talented player, get a bunch of picks, and you're just full in on your rebuild.
Yeah, I think to be honest with you, the reason why they got Chris Paul is because I think they want to see like how good DeAndre Ayton could be with this with a superstar player. I think they want to see like is he going to be able to take that next step? Because right now he's kind of in that star phase, and I think they want to see if Ayton can take that next step to being that superstar player. Because
I think he can do it.
yeah, I mean, I think he has a chance to. I think the reason why I say that is because we know that Luka Doncic in that draft is a superstar player. Like he obviously should have been the clear cut number one pick in that draft. And I think right now the Phoenix Suns are trying to make it seem like okay, we want to show you guys that we didn't make a mistake taking him, and so we're gonna do everything in our power to make sure that we give him the tools and the ability necessary to become that superstar player.
To be fair, though, I think that Luka wouldn't have become Luka Doncic that we know if he had gone to the Suns, just because pairing him with Booker is kind of tough. They both need. Booker doesn't necessarily need the ball, but it was his team, so he'd command the ball. I think Ayton was a much better fit for that team, just because he's exactly what they needed. And I think he's no Luka, but he's been balling. He has been balling.
Yeah, hopefully he's over the PED stuff because that was just so childish.
Yeah, the Suns would have made the playoffs if he didn't do that.
Yeah,
he would have made the playoffs.
Exactly. I think they actually would have been a fun team to watch, but instead of like us trying to battle between the Trailblazers and the Memphis Grizzlies, I think it would have been the Phoenix Suns because I mean they made a nice push, but they ultimately kind of fell off in that aspect. Oh, hang on. We got Sean in the chat. Killian Tilly would be better than every big man on your team immediately. Sean, enough of the Killian Tilly talk. Enough. Let me see if there's any other kind of news and rumors before we head into talking about any other. Before we start talking about a little mock draft, because I know that you are a huge fan of the NBA draft process, just like everybody is. But it is fun talking about these guys. I mean, look at Jarrett Allen's also in the trade scenarios. I'm not sure where he fits in this sort of. Does he end up in that James Harden trade? You think?
He might because they have DeAndre Jordan, so that's insurance right there. If they ask, he's gone.
What do you make of Jarrett Allen? Do you think that he could be a really good player? Do you think he could be a superstar player? What do you make of Jarrett Allen and his potential growth in this league as he continues to kind of grow?
I like his game. I think he's a pretty solid young player, and he can just, I don't know about superstar, but right now he's more of a lob threat, rim protector type guy. But he can definitely grow, start expanding his game, get a little mid-range, get a little, I don't know about threes yet, but slowly step out there and become a little consistent. He needs to work on his touch inside. But I say his ceiling right now, he looks like he could be an all-star in the East, in his prime.
Yeah, I think I don't know, man. It's tough. I really think it's tough.
He needs to bulk up some more too, because he's banging with Joel Embiid every night, and Giannis and those kind of dudes. So he definitely needs the strength.
Yeah, for sure. Another player that's actually kind of where we kind of talked about a little bit was the Phoenix, or sorry, not the Phoenix, but the Toronto Raptors. Looks like Fred VanVleet. As I knock over my mic. Is a free agent. He's looking to cash out, trying to get the most money he can. Brad, does he stay in Toronto? Does he stay in the 6?
Nah, he's gone. Toronto doesn't want to pay him. Masai Ujiri knows better than that. He's gone. I'm not sure what team. I had the Suns signing him, but then they just traded for Chris Paul, so it'll be interesting to see where he goes.
I mean, could he not be like a backup for the Suns in that kind of role? Or do you think he wants a starting spot?
Yeah. He definitely wants a starting spot. I mean, he won a championship as a huge, playing a huge role. He showed this season again being one of like the best backcourt duos with Kyle Lowry that he is a premier guard in this league. So I think he definitely is going to command like starting money and a starting spot.
I mean,
I could see the Bulls trying to sign him.
The Bulls need to, man. They have whiffed on so many point guards. It's actually insane. I'm not a huge
Yeah.
fan of Kobe White. I'll be honest with you, Brad. Not a huge fan of him. I think he's okay, but I don't think that he's like anybody that should be a starting
He's
guard.
not a point guard,
Yeah.
really.
More of a scoring guard, which I definitely think you already have in Zach
Yeah.
Levine. So it's like,
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know. That team is also
Their
another
games
mess.
contradict each other.
That team is just a mess in general. I mean, there's just so
I
many.
did see.
What'd you see, Brad?
Oh, I was gonna say, I saw a rumor about the Bulls. Uh, Dang, who was it? Let me look this up really quick. But they were asking a team about a trade, and it kind of made sense because they would send over Wendell Carter and get back somebody they need.
I mean, they definitely need to trade one of those guys because they either need to keep Lowry Marketing or they need to keep Wendell Carter. I think that's kind of that, or I guess they need to decide who they're going to keep is the bigger question. Because
They reached out to the Celtics about a Kemba Walker trade.
Kemba Walker for Wendell Carter, huh?
I mean, well, Wendell Carter, maybe like a first round pick and another young player like Kobe White. I think that'd be worth it. Kobe White, Wendell Carter. I think Wendell Carter would fit your guys' team well, and you get a good scoring guard off the bench in Kobe White.
That's not a bad shout.
A decent scoring guard.
That's not a bad shout. To be honest, I'd rather have Lowry Marketing, but that's just kind of my opinion on that.
Wait, why Lowry though? Because I think you guys already have plenty of like shooting and rebounding with Tatum and Brown, and I feel like Wendell would add a good defensive edge to your team.
I think the reason why I say that, Brad, is because what I like about Lowry is that he can stretch the floor, and I don't think Wendell at this point of his career can stretch the floor as well as a guy like Lowry Marketing. I think Wendell Carter is right now, he's still like one of those players that needs to grow and develop, and I think it's going to take him a couple years. And to be honest with you, Brad, I don't think our team has a couple years. I mean, even though like realistically we do because all these players are young on our team, but I think in order to kind of start this championship process of getting to the finals, of getting to where we want to go, I think we're going to have to start trading for some like proven players in this league. I'm not saying that Wendell Carter isn't proven at this point, but he's just still in that like incubation stage where like he's growing and developing into the center that I know that he can be in the future. But right now it's just currently not that type of player.
True. But he wouldn't have to do much. I mean, also Lowry's more of a 4 than he is a 5.
Hey man, I'm willing to play some small ball if he wants to kind of be the 5. I mean, we saw what happened with Anthony Davis when he had to play the 5, and that was probably their best lineup with him as the 5. Even though
that's AD. Lowry gets exposed on defense.
Hey man, we just need to score buckets. That's all I really care about. That's from the center position.
It's gotta be tough being a Celtics fan. I mean, watching Danny Ainge make those trades, I'd be shaking.
I mean, I'll be pissed if we don't do anything in this situation where we're trading away draft picks. Like if we don't get the players that I think we need to get, then we're gonna have problems. and I'll leave it at that.
Gonna have to leave the Celtic fanship.
I mean,
abort. Come to LA. We got plenty of room over here.
There is plenty of room in LA. Now that everyone's kind of moving to Texas at this point, there's a lot more room. Wow. Let me see if there's any other news and rumors kind of from Hoops Hype, seeing if there's any see if there's anything else. Doesn't really look like it. I mean, I know there were some small moves being made. Like I think the Detroit Pistons traded away a player, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think that's really it. I mean, unless you have any other news and rumors that you're seeing out there.
Not that I see.
I mean, let me kind of do another quick sweep, and then we'll kind of get into the mock draft, because I think out of all the drafts that we've had in the previous years, I think this one is the most like, I would say uninspiring, but also more like, kind of the most up in the air draft I think I've seen in a while. In terms of like where all these players can go, because there's a wide range for a lot of these players. But before we talk about that, Brad, I need to know your opinion on Kyle Kuzma. Where's this dude going?
Yo, actually, yeah, he's going to the Pacers, dog. I think, um, I think it's the perfect trade. Honestly, you trade Kyle Kuzma for Victor Oladipo straight up, because Oladipo's on an expiring contract, so his value tanks way down. Normally, you wouldn't be able to make a trade like that, but since he has only 1 year left on his deal, and Kuz showing that he can contribute on a championship team, you put him on the Pacers, he'll have a bigger role, be able to grow as a player, and we take Oladipo from you, so you didn't just, let him walk away for nothing. Good trade for both teams.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of heard about that, and I know Kuz deactivated his Twitter account, so he doesn't know where he's going. He wants to hear it straight up from the owners and the GMs.
He's gone.
Yeah,
He's gone.
but he's gone. He's absolutely gone. And to be honest with you, Brad, I think this is the right move for Kyle Kuzma.
Deleting his Twitter?
No, well, I think that's also a good move, but because I think Twitter is like, I don't know, Twitter's so toxic these
Really
days.
toxic, yeah.
It's
yeah.
it's just annoying at this point. I only use it really for news. I don't really kind of interact with people on there besides you.
Yeah. Just hoops. That's
Just
really all I
hoops.
use it for, yeah.
But here's my thing, Brad. The reason why I think Kyle Kuzma it's a good idea for him to leave LA is because I think he's so distracted with everything that's going on in LA. The women that he dated with the hair changes looking like Cisco. I mean, like there's so many distractions that Kyle Kuzma has been going through as an LA Laker that I think it really affected him on the court. I really do. Like, I don't think we got the real Kyle Kuzma.
Yeah, I think getting out of LA will definitely help him. That could just be who he is, but I think being in a small market like Indiana would definitely do wonders for him. He'll focus more on his game.
Yeah, I just think that, like, as much as, I watched Kyle Kuzma at Utah, every time that we would play with the basketball team, he'd be the one just kind of shooting by himself or with his brother, I believe is who he was with. And so, like, I felt like when he was at Utah, he was, like, really focused. He was really determined. He was really, like, hey, man, I got to make it to the league. I got to do what I can. And then as soon as he, went to LA and there were so many distractions with the lights, with the girls, with everything, as cliche as it sounds, I just think that, like, going to a place like the Pacers in Indiana where it's mostly basketball, that's kind of they call it like a basketball state, right? And so I think him going to Indiana will actually help him in his game. I think it actually could expand his ceiling a little bit if he wanted to.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, he'd be forced to expand his game instead of playing behind LeBron and AD, Indiana I think he fits their team perfectly. He can slot in at the power forward since they have Sabonis at the 5 if they get rid of Miles Turner. So you can play Kuz at the 4, or you can play him at the 3 with TJ Warren at the 2. Whatever. He fits small ball perfectly. He's a long, big defender. I think that's the perfect destination for him.
Okay. Yeah, like you said, Indiana definitely a great destination for him. And I'm trying to see if there's any other trade rumors. I mean, I think the one that we kind of forgot to talk about and kind of maybe expand on, and then we'll kind of move on to the draft. Brad, James Harden to the Brooklyn Nets.
I would love to see it. I would love to see him join Kyrie and Durant just so I can watch LeBron destroy that team. But I don't think it's as good as a move as everybody is making it out to be. They're seeing the names, Kyrie, Durant, Harden, and they think super team, but basketball is much more nuanced than that. There's only one ball. I know it sounds cliche, but there's only one ball.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, like, unless they're playing with three basketballs in Brooklyn, then I don't see that being a right fit. I mean, as much as I love James Harden, even though his game is it's a sight for sore eyes because it's not pretty to watch. I mean, him, Kyrie, Durant. I mean, Durant can do a little bit better job of not using so much air out of the ball, but James Harden and Kyrie dribble the hell out of the ball. So, like, where's the movement going to come from? You're going to have to trade so much of your bench to get him. I mean,
neither one of them are premier defenders in Kyrie and Harden. Like, Durant is serviceable, but he's still not even an elite defender. So where does your defense go?
Exactly. I mean, like, you're going to rely on DeAndre Jordan, your rim protector. I don't know. I'm like you, Brad. I'm not a huge fan of this James Harden to the Nets. I think it hurts the Nets more than it helps, and I think, to be honest with you, this will overshadow Steve Nash's hiring, and I think that it's really going to put a spotlight. It's going to, I mean, he already has a spotlight on him, but I think it's going to put even more of a target on his back for Steve Nash.
It makes his job
him
way harder.
And, I think a lot of people are going to be expecting like those LeBron James Miami Heat days where they're like, okay, you have to get to the NBA Finals or else this is a bust season. Or actually, no, you have to win the NBA Finals. Not even just get there. You have to win. And to be honest with you, Brad, I just don't see this team winning a championship. I don't.
Not at all. Not at all. I honestly think they would implode before the finals even. Like, Kyrie, Kate, not only do their games not work on their court, their personalities don't work in the same locker room,
Yeah.
Knowing what we know about KD, knowing what we know about Kyrie and Harden, those dudes on the same team would be a circus, bro.
It'd absolutely just be insane. And I don't think that James Harden is as good as he is. Like, playoffs, James Harden is definitely different. He's not the same player. We see Kyrie Irving without LeBron James. He gets injured a lot. He's not really healthy all the time. Kevin Durant is coming back from an Achilles injury, which, is career threatening. As career threatening to a lot of players. I don't foresee him having a career threatening type of thing, but
yeah, it would be fine.
But I think he'll be fine.
But it's still like tough to come back from that and try and lead. And neither one of them are leaders. Neither one of them have been leaders on their team. Harden was not the leader on those Rockets team. When they beat the Clippers down 3-1, the leaders were Josh Smith and Corey Brewer. When they were going up against Golden State, the leader was Chris Paul, Trevor Ariza. When, Kyrie had LeBron, KD had Draymond. So that shit would be terrible. It's basketball is much more nuanced than just get the best players and you always win all the time. In this case, you're going to lose.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Brad. I think as much as I would love to watch this circus, or as much as I would love to watch this and see how it unfolds, I just think the Nets need to think long and hard if this is the trade that they want to make. Because this, to me, is kind of smelling a lot like that 2011 Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett trade where it might self-implode, you might lose all those players, and then you're left with no draft picks, and you have to do this process all over again. It's just going to be rinse, cycle, repeat. I don't know what it is
that
about.
That would be crazy.
I don't know what it is about these New York teams, but they just cannot seem to get their act together.
Honestly, I did see a trade scenario where they just send, where the Nets would send Kyrie actually for James Harden.
That might be. I also saw one where it's like, what is it? It's Kyrie Irving and like maybe Caris LeVert or some other players, for Harden and Westbrook, and just create the Thunder in Brooklyn again.
That would be crazy.
But let me
wouldn't win anything.
Probably would not win a single thing. Let me see here. Let me make sure there's some more news about this Gordon Hayward situation. Let me make sure. Okay. They don't really say what they would trade him for. Obviously, Gordon Hayward is looking to move. Like we talked about, Atlanta could be the destination for Gordon Hayward. Yeah, I mean, it's not really looking too great. But before we talk about,
I hope the Hawks don't pull that move.
I think they will, man. I think that the Hawks are, for some reason, they like Gordon Hayward. For some reason, there's this Gordon Hayward love that I have no idea where it came from. I think if it was pre-injury Gordon Hayward, I would be like, okay, that makes sense. But he just hasn't been the same player since that injury. And I like Gordon Hayward at Utah, but he just hasn't been the same player in my opinion.
I can understand it from any team, especially contenders, just because he does so much. He can play defense, he can play make, he can knock down shots. He is a utility knife. But bro, I just don't see why you go through the trouble of rebuilding through the draft just to say, all right, fuck it, let's trade that away for an expensive injury-prone player. Doesn't make sense.
Exactly. I mean, that's kind of the situation that we got here. Trying to see here really quick. All right, Brad. We talked about all these teams. I think the one team we kind of forgot to talk about was, of course, the head pack, the head wolf, the honcho of the pack is, of course, the LA Lakers. Right now, they made some nice signings. They got Dennis Schroeder. I like that move. Kind of replaces Rajon Rondo a little bit. He's been dubbed the German Rondo by some people.
Is.
Obviously, Anthony Davis declined his player option. Brad, where did the Lakers go from here?
I think Rob Pelinka right now is scrambling to try and, sign good role players, sign impactful role players, because he sees that other teams are, going out trying to do the same arms race right now.
Mm-hmm.
Someone I saw that I like a lot is Jeremy Grant. I saw he declined his player option. I think that's somebody that they could try to go after, just because he adds defense, which fits the mold of their team. He's 6'9", he's long, can shoot. Towards the end of the playoffs when we played them, he looked really, really, really good. Was putting the ball on the ground, was hitting timely shots, finishing everything. I would love Jeremy Grant.
Does Anthony Davis stay?
100%, 1,000%.
All right. He declined his player option.
He just wants to get paid the max, which he will get in his sleep.
Yes, I definitely think that he will get that. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I think the last thing that we do need to talk about for that is KCP. I think, he was the guy that kind of emerged as your second star player. He declined his player option as well. Do you see anything with KCP staying in LA, or do you see him leaving?
I think he's staying. He's part of the Clutch family, so LeBron's done a lot for him. Got him a no trade clause, which is even the reason he's still in LA. Like, there's no way it's time to pay his dues. He owes Bron this, so I think he stays in LA, especially after winning a ring.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the thing that I noticed is that KCP definitely emerged as the third star for the team. A lot of people picked Kyle Kuzma, but ultimately it came down to KCP making some big plays, making some big moves, and we're here where we're at right now because of it. Championship for the LA Lakers. Some players that are out there in free agency that I think the Lakers could get is Joe Harris, a 3-point shooting, machine. I think he would actually be a nice fit for you guys. It's kind of like a Danny Green replacement. Not saying that defensively he would be the same player, but I think 3-point shooting wise he'd be a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, we need that kind of shooting. So honestly, he can hide behind AD, LeBron. Our defense is solid. But I would say Joe Harris is probably on like the back end of the list of people they're after. Probably like Gallinari at the top, because he's long, can shoot the ball like crazy. He can even create for himself and others.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did see Avery Bradley is thinking about leaving, and I think he probably will leave, just because he knows his worth now. He played with the Lakers, and everybody saw him kind of be one of the leaders of the defense, so they know he still has it.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think Avery Bradley is going to probably leave. He's probably going to get his money somewhere else, and I don't know. This is a very interesting time, like I said, to be an NBA fan. We're kind of going towards the tail end of our NBA free agency talk. Unless something major breaking happens while we're recording this mock draft, we will discuss it. But Brad, do you have any final thoughts on free agency before we head into the mock drafts?
I did see Rodney Hood declined his player option today to become a free agent. I just want to say I don't know why he did that. Lakers aren't picking him up because he already screwed Brown over once.
Yeah, I just don't think that he's I don't know. I don't know why they decided to do that. It's not
he's coming off an Achilles injury. I would think you want to secure yourself and secure your money and prove you can play again before you opt out. But it is what it is. It's a weak class. He probably knows that.
Yeah, this is definitely like one of the weaker free agency classes. I know that Andre Drummond picked up his player option because he ain't getting paid that much anywhere else. That is for dang sure. But all right, Brad, let's get to it. It's officially time. Everybody, if you're tuning in right now, thank you once again for joining us here on The Charge. We will be going over the mock draft portion of our video. The last hour, we kind of discussed free agency news, what we thought about some moves. And so, Brad, the 2020 draft class. I want you to give your overall view on this draft class. What do you make of it? Is it a fun one, or what do you make of this 2020 class?
Pretty much what everybody's been saying. It's probably one of the weaker classes we've had in recent years, and shit, even in a lot of years. But there is a lot of good players in here, and a lot of people that I think will stick in the league and could make an impact. There's not a bunch of superstars like a Zion or RJ or Kyrie John Wall, but there's a lot of good, solid players.
Exactly. So, Brad, let's start it off really quick. I'm just going to pull up a couple of websites to kind of see what players have as their number one, their number two, kind of the biggest fallers, the biggest risers. Let's start off with the number one pick, the Minnesota Timberwolves. You're on the clock. Who do you think the Minnesota Timberwolves should take with this pick?
See, this is tough because if they take Wiseman, they already have Cat, so that fit doesn't really work. And if they take Anthony Edwards, they just drafted Jarrett Culver, so you're going to forego Culver's growth for Edwards. If I'm the Timberwolves, I honestly trade the pick because we need a vet to fit with Cat and D'Lo. But if I'm forced to draft and then trade after, give me Anthony Edwards.
Anthony Edwards. What do you like about Anthony Edwards? I know there was rumors that a lot of GMs, and this is kind of what I picked up from a couple websites, is that a lot of GMs were not very pleased with his pro day workout. I think it's just people hating on Clutch Sports.
I was about to say that. They definitely just hating.
But what do you make of Anthony Edwards? What's your opinion of him? Like, what do you think is his floor? What do you think is his ceiling? Like, what do you make of Anthony Edwards?
Yeah, I think he's an NBA ready player, NBA ready player right now. He has the body, the strength, quickness. His shooting is almost there. He's kind of streaky, but he's still a good shooter, and he'll develop. That always comes once you been in the league for a while. I think his defense isn't really there, but he was a star at Georgia. How many star players who know they're going to be like a top 5 pick are essentially locked down in college? It's not what they're looking to do, but he has all the capabilities and all the tools to be a good defender. So I think he'll be minimum. I think he's going to be an all-star in this league. I think he'll be an all-star. I think a good player comparison for him is probably Dwayne Wade as his ceiling, and floor Tony Allen. He's already a much better. He's a much better, I guess, shot creator and shooter than Tony Allen. So I wouldn't even say Tony Allen, but he's a good floor for him. Gerald Henderson. Gerald Henderson.
Interesting.
That's a good floor for him.
That's a throwback.
That's about where he's at right now already.
Yeah, I mean, like,
athletic, can kind of shoot it.
Yeah, I think Anthony Edwards, to me, Brad, like, I like the kid. I think he actually will be a good player in this league. I think for me, his ceiling is honestly Victor Oladipo, a more athletic Victor Oladipo. And I think that he will be a really good player in this league. Do I think superstar? Not necessarily. I think he'll be a good star player, like a good second or third option on a team, which I think he already is at this point of his career. He's kind of has like a high floor and like kind of a lower ceiling than most of these other players that we're going to be talking about. But yeah. I do like Anthony Edwards. The problem is with Minnesota is, like you talked about, they already have a guy in that, and Culver. And so I think in order to be different, I think the number one pick has to be LaMelo Ball. You can laugh about it. You can say what you want about it.
D'Lo, you want to pair LaMelo and D'Lo? Man,
I mean, this team is already not playing defense anyway. You might as well just add another guy that doesn't play defense. I know that's
true.
I know Anthony Edwards is a better defender than LaMelo Ball at this point, but I think with LaMelo Ball, his potential is so high that I think that you could actually develop him. And whether you trade away D'Lo, because I think, as it pains me as much to say, I think D'Lo might get traded, and I think they're going to try and trade him to get another player to pair up with Cat, because obviously Cat's the number one guy on their team. But I do think that LaMelo Ball would be a better fit here. Offensively, playmaking wise, he can get Karl-Anthony Towns into better positions than any other point guard that he's ever played with. The way he reads the floor, the way that he does kick ahead passes, I think especially with the combination of D'Lo, I think it actually would be a great position for him to be in. The biggest question mark for me, the biggest question mark for me for LaMelo is going to be how good is he going to be off ball? Because I think that in order for him to be a little bit more successful, he needs to do a little bit more off ball stuff than being on ball. Like if he went to like the Hornets, for example, which is number 3, like obviously he would have the ball in his hands. He'd be, taking the air out of it all the time. But to be honest with you, Brad, I think number 1, you go for a risky pick. You go like if you have to take it, because I think I'm with you, Brad. I think it's one of those ones where I think LaMelo Ball, or I think that pick is going to be traded away. But I think LaMelo Ball for number 1.
Okay. I'm not mad at it. I think LaMelo has the most talent out of anybody in this class, so it makes sense. But just for fit, between D'Lo and LaMelo, that'd be hard. Like you said, they both need the ball in their hands, and LaMelo off ball hasn't looked too good. So if you want to get like the LaMelo you're looking for, then if you do draft him, you got to flip D'Lo.
Yeah, exactly. And let's move on to number 2, Brad. For our guy, who was it that asked for it? I think someone asked for who do you think the Warriors should take at number 1 or number 2. All right, Brad, who do the Warriors go for in this spot?
That's easy. They trade that. They don't need any rookie. They're trying to make a contending push. But if they have to take it, James Wiseman, because he fills exactly what they need. He can rim protect, he can run the floor, and he'll be able to like develop within himself since he doesn't have to worry about putting this team on his back since he has stars around him.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement here, Brad. Like, I think James Wiseman is the consensus number 2 pick in this draft because, like you said, a rim protector, a guy that, isn't necessarily the best at shooting, but it can develop that. And I don't think he's really pressured into being, like you said, the star player of a team. He can relax. He can be kind of the 3rd or 4th fiddle on a team and kind of develop and grow into that role. As he continues to kind of grow and develop. Because, like, he's a very interesting prospect. The unfortunate thing about James Wiseman is honestly that he wasn't able to play during the season because it would be fun to see where he's at right now compared to where he was at the beginning of the season and see where he grew, where he fell. But maybe that's kind of why the intrigue of James Wiseman is so high, and that's why James Wiseman is going up the draft boards is because we haven't seen him play. And so the intrigue of a guy like James Wiseman could entice teams to maybe take a chance on him.
I've seen him. I think I saw his draft combine measurements. He came in 25 or 30 pounds heavier than when he measured before. So at least he's been like getting in the weight room and trying to bulk up for the NBA.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I kind of want to see. I haven't really like looked at his pro day or anything, or like his measurements or stuff like that. So I'd be interested to see like wingspan wise, where is he at, and other stuff like that.
His wingspan is crazy, and his reaching span. I saw something. It was his standing reach is about the same as DeAndre Jordan.
Wow.
Like, yeah, it's right there, and DeAndre has like a top 5 standing reach in the league or something.
Jeez, that is.
Yeah, his measurements are insane.
Yeah, that is. I'm not gonna. That's crazy. That is crazy. But moving on to number 3, Brad. What do we make of what do we think of the Hornets? What are they going with?
That's easy. They got LaMelo. They need a point guard desperately because Terry Rozier isn't that, and I don't think that I like Devontae Graham, but if you're trying to make your team if you're trying to rebuild, I think LaMelo is obviously a better pick. Because he has the star talent. I think he has superstar talent. So I would bank on LaMelo and put the ball in his hands and try to flip Devontae and Terry or do what you can with those guys later on.
Yeah, I think for number 3, I just basically just flipped with you, Brad. I would probably have Anthony Edwards at this pick. I think Michael Jordan might see himself in Anthony Edwards. I think kind of like that shooting guard role where like he's dominant, like an athletic specimen, like a guy that can really dunk the ball, really attack the rim, defensively is there. So I think that he really fits the alignment or like what Michael Jordan sees as a guy that they would want on their team. So I think I have Anthony Edwards going to the Charlotte Hornets because it reminds Michael Jordan so much of himself. We know how much Michael Jordan loves himself.
I like that. Hey, Actually, I do have another pick for the Hornets. I think if they don't take LaMelo, they might take Oneka from USC.
Oh, NECA, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I'm high on him. I think I don't think he should fall any lower than like a top 6 pick. He's perfect for small ball. I give his player comparison to Bam Adebayo, with more of like a refined shooting game. So the Hornets have PJ Washington, who they could slot at power forward, and I think Oneka would be like the perfect complement for him. They've been relying on Cody Zeller for years now, and that shit needs to end. They re-signed Bismack Biyombo. Like, what are you guys doing here? So if it's not LaMelo, I think Oneka takes that spot for sure.
You know what's crazy about the Hornets? They still are paying Nicholas Batum the $27 million that they signed him to. I think it was either him. It was either the Blazers or the Hornets that gave him that contract extension.
It was the Hornets. It was the Hornets. MJ's gambling problem leaked into his ownership decisions.
Yeah.
Why did you? Man, what kind of a gamble is that, throwing that kind of money at Nicholas Batum?
Yeah, Nicholas Batum is definitely not a person that I would want as a anywhere near on my team. But anyway, moving on to number 4, the Chicago Bulls. Chicago. We know that the Chicago Bulls are looking again and again, draft after draft, for that kind of player that will help them win and get to the playoffs. I think this year they're going to have to start doing it, but we'll see where that goes here. But Brad, depending on who they draft, maybe that might be the case. Who do you have them taking?
For this one, I think, yeah, I'm okay. So I'm gonna switch Oneka to the Hornets, and I put LaMelo on Chicago because they need a point guard desperately. They need to pair Zach with somebody that can get him the ball in his spots, because Chris Dunn isn't that, and neither is
Kobe White.
Neither is Kobe White. Yeah, Kobe White wants to score the ball. LaMelo will find Zach in his spots while also being able to get his own buckets. He'll spread the floor. I think that's a perfect fit. They're both tall and lanky. LaMelo's 6'8", so you have a big lineup with Zach, LaMelo, Wendell Carter, Laurie. I like that draft pick a lot.
Yeah, I think for the Chicago Bulls, it's one of those situations where they are still desperately looking for a point guard. It's going to be one where they're going to take a chance, and I think they're going to take a risk on somebody. And this is where I think maybe I might get a little controversial, but I think at number 4, they take Halliburton. I think Halliburton as a, what is he, 6'7", I think?
6'5", 6'6",
6'5", 6'6", type of like a bigger guard than they have like with guys like Kobe White. But you know, his release and his jump shot may be a little funky to some people, but like if he's able to just get it off quick, I don't think it'll be necessarily an issue. I think we see Trae Young kind of have the same sort of kind of set shot, and it's worked out for him in the NBA so far. And so I think we could potentially see that with Tyrese Halliburton, a guy that's also defensively, because he's so long as well, that he could potentially be a really good player for the Chicago Bulls. And I think that that's much of a better fit than what the ESPN mock drafts have here at number 4, which is Danny, I think it's Avasia. I hope I keep pronouncing his name right. But that's kind of where they have him. But it's like, why would you want to take another kind of small forward type of player when you already have a guy like Zach LaVine? Get longer in the guard and the front court and back court. Get longer, and you could be a defensive stopping unit.
Exactly. Yeah, the Bulls actually this year were surprising in defense. They were a top 6 defense when Chris Dunn was healthy and when Wendell Carter was healthy. So if they can get back to that, plus their scoring, that's how you make the playoffs in games.
Yeah, so at number 4, Chicago, definitely going to be an interesting situation for what they do there. But let's move on to another team that's kind of a stinker of a team, and that's, of course, the Cleveland Cavaliers. They, of course, have Darius Garland, Colin Sexton, who they took in the last couple of years. They also got Kevin Porter Jr. Brad, the Cleveland Cavaliers, how do they get past this sort of kind of lull that are in right now? Because they won a championship with LeBron James in 2016. Hasn't been the same team since. Where do the Cavaliers go at this point?
Well, they still have to make up for drafting Darius Garland last year when they had Colin Sexton.
Yep.
So I have no idea what's going on in that organization, but if they're smart, they'll take Obi Toppin if he's on the board. If LaMelo and everyone else have been picked, take Obi Toppin because he's 6'9", has an NBA body already. You can slot him at either power forward or small forward and small ball. I think his development would be crucial to like how good that team could be, you know, because right now he's more of he would feed off of Darius Garland and Colin Sexton, but eventually he could become that wing type player for you that can play make and get their own buckets.
Yeah,
so I'd go with Obi Toppin.
Yeah, I think Obi Toppin makes sense here, but I think another player that they could get is Onyeka. I think Onyeka might be a good fit here in Cleveland.
With Andre and Kevin Love?
But I think they're going to trade away. I think they're going to trade away Drummond because Drummond is so limited offensively that I think it'll really. I really think they're going to try and trade that pick. To be honest with you, Brad, I think they're going to try and package a deal to move up in the draft. I think Cleveland could be up to something at this point. I would like them to move up and get one of the guards. Or sorry, not one of the guards. To get one of the. Yeah, to get one of the guards because I think they need to get. They obviously made a mistake in drafting Darius Garland. I think they either needed to not draft Colin Sexton or not draft Darius Garland. But since they already got Sexton, they might as well have not drafted the other one. And so
yeah.
I think Onyeka right here to me makes sense because I think they're going to be looking to move away from guys like Kevin Love, guys like Andre Drummond, and kind of move and ship those guys and kind of start a rebuild. I think they need to start fresh, start clean, and I think Onyeka would actually be a good player fit for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Kind of that, like you said, Bam Adebayo. I like his game. I think he's actually really good. I kind of wish I did a mock draft. I did a draft profile on him on this channel, but that's neither here nor there. We're here to talk about it now. But yeah, I think Onyeka might be a good fit there, and I like him. I like him a lot, and I think that he would be, like I said, a good player to be that Bam Adebayo. Yeah, a starting piece. And I think you need to look long and hard and see whether you want to keep Darius Garland or Colin Sexton because one of those guys got to go.
For sure, yeah. I don't know how you watch Dame and CJ repeatedly lose and then decide, let's do that. I don't understand that.
Yeah, I think one of those guys is eventually going to be traded away. But Brad, another team to look out for in the Eastern Conference is, of course, going to be the Atlanta Hawks. They made some noise a little bit. Obviously, they're still a young team. Where do the Hawks go with this pick?
See, this one's tough because the Hawks have already drafted so many young players, and their rebuild is they're in the middle of their rebuild right now. So, I did see some rumors that they might want to trade this pick for a proven vet. Maybe they're thinking about including that in the Gordon Hayward trade, which would be crazy. But if I'm the Hawks, I would draft another shooting guard. My main man, Isaac Okoro.
Okay.
Just because I don't think Kevin Huerter is a starter in this league. They tried to play him like he's Klay Thompson, and he's nowhere near Klay Thompson defensively or offensively. Closer offensively than he is defensively. So with Isaac Okoro, you get the shooting. He's a great slasher, and his shooting will obviously get better, and his mechanics are great. So I think he'll be able to really become like knockdown. He'll learn how to play make on the wing, and he'll make your defense better next to Trey, since you have to hide Trey. And between Isaac, John Collins, and Clint Capella, you can make that team better defensively, and DeAndre Hunter too.
Yeah, Sean, Killian Tilly is not getting drafted in the top 10. Stop it.
Killian Tilly going number 1. I actually think he'll be a good NBA player.
I think
spread
so
the
too.
Floor and he's big.
I think so too. I think it's just going to be like which team's going to take him, and it has to go to the right team because if he's not going to go to the right team, then unfortunately he's going to go away with some of those other big men that those terrible teams try and take and try to force him to be something that he's not. But going to number 6, the Atlanta Hawks, I actually have them taking Obi Toppin if they're not going to trade away this pick to Gordon Hayward, or not going to trade. I think Obi Toppin, the way that he stretches the floor, I know that he's kind of like a tweener where like he's not necessarily good enough, like he's not necessarily big enough to be a power forward or to guard like big men, but he's still small enough and agile enough. I think Obi Toppin can stretch the floor out, and if you add him and John Collins and you have Trae Young, I think this should actually be a fun offensive team to watch. Defensively, I think they're going to be suspect unless, Hunter can really grow and develop this year. I think this has to be a year where we see a tremendous stride and growth for him. in order for this team to really
Yeah.
succeed. But I think I like Obi Toppin going to the Hawks.
That fit would be iffy with John, but I mean, the spacing. I don't know. I guess I could see it just because, like you said, he's like at that tweener position, so you can play him at small forward too.
Just your typical like Aaron Gordon, Jonathan Isaac type of player. Just like can stretch the floor maybe, but is also kind of like in that tweener stage. It seems like
Yeah.
maybe Obi should go to the Magic because that seems like they seem to draft every tweener that you can think about.
Honestly, honestly.
But let's move on to number 7, the Detroit Pistons. They're kind of like in this weird, like, I don't even know what you want to call it. Pseudo rebuild, maybe a rebuild, maybe not a rebuild. But they are number 7 in the draft, obviously, so they're not very good. But where do you think Detroit goes in, trying to get back to those glory days of the bad boy Pistons?
I don't know if they'll ever reach those glory days again, but management has been really suspect up there. But
Very.
if I'm the Pistons, I think I take. Man, that's tough. The Pistons, they need a lot. They need. I think I would take either Denny or Halliburton. Yeah, I'm gonna say who's the Pistons point guard right now?
Derrick Rose.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Halliburton. They need to take Halliburton at 7.
Ooh, okay. What do you like about Halliburton? I kind of talked about him earlier. What do you like about Halliburton?
The playmaking. His playmaking is supreme. He's a masterclass playmaker. I think pairing that with somebody like Christian Wood is great for your team. 2 young, really talented players. They also have the guy they drafted last year, Siku.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Some Doumbia.
if you pair a playmaker like Halliburton with those kind of guys, you make the game easier for them, and they're able to expand their games through him. Kind of grow as a team. Plus, Halliburton's a great slasher, and his shooting is good. He spaces the floor. The mechanics are weird, but all that matters is the ball goes in. So his shooting is good. I would take him.
Yeah, I think with the Detroit Pistons, they're kind of in that predicament, like you said, Brad. They need a lot of things, and I don't think Jesus is going to help them and their team and their problems. So I think what I see the Pistons doing here is they're going to take a reach. They're going to reach for a player and see if he can develop or not. And that player that I have them reaching for is Killian Hayes.
Like they did with Henry Allenson. Killian Hayes, okay. He's talented. I like him.
Killian Hayes is one of those, like, definitely a project type of players because right now he can only go left. So he's definitely going to have to work on going right because, the game is built on both sides. So he definitely needs to develop. And I think that with adding a guy like Killian Hayes, if he can get anywhere near to, like, D-Lo, which is where a lot of people have his ceiling at, then I think they could potentially, eventually move on from Derrick Rose because, Derrick Rose is older. He's, it's time for him to go to a contending team and see if he can't
They should flip him for some picks.
Yeah. They definitely should do something with Derrick Rose. But yeah, I think I have Killian Hayes in this spot because I think Killian Hayes, in my opinion, although it's a very high risk, he could also be a high reward player. And so the Detroit Pistons need to take a chance at this point on somebody. ESPN has them taking Patrick Williams, which I've heard a lot about. His stock has definitely risen up in these last couple of days. I'm not necessarily sold on him just yet, but apparently a lot of GMs and a lot of scouts are at this point. So, maybe I'll have to watch some more film on him and kind of like see what he really is all about. But yeah, I have the Detroit Pistons taking Killian Hayes and seeing if they can't turn him into a all-star or at least superstar type of player.
Okay. Yeah, I think he would fit on that team. Although I feel like the Pistons don't have the patience to watch him grow.
They won't. They'll probably trade him away in like the next maybe year or two and be like, yeah, we just want to be like average at best.
Yeah.
Which is frustrating because I think like the city of Detroit is such a fun city, and the fact that the Pistons just can't have a team like they once did, like even the early 2000s, is just frustrating. And I'd be frustrated as a Pistons fan at this point.
honestly, yeah, I would be really frustrated. It's got to be tough being Jalen Rose.
For sure. But you know what's even more frustrating is the New York Knicks franchise, and that's who they're going to be picking at number 8. The New York Knicks. Brad, what does this team need to do in order to be somewhat realistic and somewhat successful? It seems like the New York Knicks fans have officially given up on everything right now. But what kind of hope do you think that this draft can give them, if any?
I don't think this draft can give them much hope, but it can give them somebody really entertaining. So if they don't land Westbrook, I think they should go for Kira Lewis from Alabama. I like his game. He's super quick, super entertaining. I think he can help with Mitchell Robinson. Those two could be a nice tandem. You know, get him looks, get RJ looks too, because this year RJ played point guard, which is wild. Why is RJ playing point guard? Yeah, I like Kira Lewis. He's exciting. He'll draw fans, which is minimum what they need.
Yeah, I mean, you would think that the Knicks would go for a very realistic or a pick that I think that they would, would try to make the safest bet, but that's not the New York Knicks way, baby. I think they're going to try and get someone else. I think they're going to try and reach on a player. They're going to try and see where this player goes, and to me, that player is going to be RJ Hampton. I know that's going to be surprising. I know that a lot of people are not going to like that pick, but I do think the Knicks are going to try and be a risky team, and they're going to try and take RJ Hampton. I think RJ Hampton, with his length and his size, to be honest with you, Brad, he kind of reminds me of a Dante Exum, like pre what we know now about him, like kind of that like sort of like interesting hype around him. Like, can he be something? Can he not be something? And so I think I have them taking RJ Hampton at this point because obviously I have some players that are gone in this point. But I think that, if RJ Hampton can grow and develop and be a player, they might take him. But I think as much as I would like to say that like Hampton would be like a good fit in New York, they need to start looking at not taking a point guard because right now they have gone 0 for whatever on their point guards at this point.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah.
I might be taking a risk there by having him go at that point, but I think they need to start taking risks, and I think they're going to take another risk here. They took a risk on Frank Ntilikina. They took one on Dennis Smith.
By trading for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's just hasn't worked out yet.
Oh, no, they drafted Dennis Smith. Oh, my God, they drafted Dennis Smith. Oh.
Yeah, it's not looking too hot. I will say that. So the Knicks are going to be dealing with that situation. But let's move on to number 9, Brad, the Washington Wizards. This team, of course, is sort of in this purgatory as well. Free Bradley Beal. That's what every fan is asking for, is to free him.
Honestly, please.
But let's say they do free Bradley Beal. Who do they take at number 9?
I got the Wizards taking Patrick Williams from Florida State. I think he's the perfect fit for their team right now just because of his length. He's 6'7", he's long. He can shoot the ball, silky jumper, super athletic, which fits the way the Wizards play with John Wall up and down, with John Wall, Bradley Beal, Rui, all people that can run the floor really, really well. And he adds defense. So, yeah, I like Patrick Williams going to the Wizards a lot. I think if he can land on that team, he'll be able to carve out a nice niche for himself.
I think I have to agree with you there, Brad. I think Patrick Williams is the pick there for the Washington Wizards. I think that, like you said, like a guy that defensively is already there, and that's something that a lot of teams need at this point because, with a lot of the pick and rolls going on in the league, you need to be able to go over it and, kind of defend. So I think that's actually a great pick. Patrick Williams going to the Washington Wizards could potentially help defensively. Offensively could be a great player as well. I know that there's rumors that he might even go as high as number 2 to the Golden State Warriors.
That's gotta be. Oh, Golden State lying out here. Whew, smoke and mirrors.
Smoke and mirrors maybe, but that's kind of where we're looking at for Patrick Williams. I think they're trying to create some sort of market, hikeage on Patrick Williams, but that is a rumor. But yeah, I think the Wizards could potentially be using him in a great way.
Yeah.
And let's move on to number 10. The Phoenix Suns just acquired Chris Paul. Who, Brad, do they add to help them be a contending team and actually get into the playoffs?
This is tough because I don't know if this pick helps them contend, but he definitely makes their team better. So I'm gonna go with Denny out of Israel. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
playing on the Israel team. Yeah, I'm,
Yep.
I'm gonna take Denny. Um, 6'9", he's long. He fits what they need. They need a power forward right now, and I think he'd play a good small ball power forward. He can play make really well. He's not like the greatest shooter, but he can shoot, and he can with his length and athleticism, slightly athleticism. But he's 6'9".
Mm-hmm.
He can learn how to become a good impact defender using his length.
Yeah, I mean, I think Denny is actually not a bad shout here, but Brad, I'm going in a different direction. I am going with Isaac Okoro since I haven't him off the board yet. Him going to Phoenix might actually be a great fit here. I think defensively, offensively, like he just I think he fits the Phoenix Suns so well as a player that, doesn't necessarily need to be a starting type of player on the Phoenix Suns, but could potentially come off the bench, give them some 6-man minutes and really make an impact on this team. It's like defensively and offensively, I know that he's one of the greater finishers. I think the problem with him is his shooting. And so he needs to work on that and see if he can develop that at some point. But I do think Isaac Okoro going to the Phoenix Suns might not be a bad shout, especially with Chris Paul and Devin Booker kind of out there running the point. You can maybe even add Isaac Okoro in, game time situations, depending on like his growth and development. Almost 20 years old at this point. I think Isaac Okoro goes to the Phoenix Suns.
I think he'd make their team a lot better, yeah. But I mean, is that what you want as a team? Do you want your top 10 pick coming off the bench? Or would it be kind of necessary for the Suns? Just since they have Booker.
See, like I agree with you in principle, Brad, that like, if you're drafted in the top 10, that dude has to be like a starter or like someone that really impacts. But I mean, we've seen many times before that some 6-man players really impact the floor. I mean, Lemon Pepper Will, made a lot of impacts. Not saying that Isaac Okoro will be like will go maybe they like the wings. I don't know. That's not for me to decide if they like the wings or not. But I do think Isaac Okoro, though, as a 6-man, could be a really impactful player. And I think that, you don't necessarily need to start on the team in order to make an impact. But if you can come off the bench, play your role, and, play tremendous basketball, I think that they would take you and they would let you know, like, hey, you should join our team and you should play with. And I think that him coming off the bench would actually be a good shout for the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, he would definitely be a strong piece off the bench for that team.
Yeah, but let's move on to the number 11 team, the San Antonio Spurs. Brad, the Spurs are a team that kind of right now I don't know where they're at, to be honest with you. I think they're kind of like they're directionless. And I think that Greg Popovich is eventually going to retire. Not sure when, but I think he will. But Brad, where do you think that the Phoenix Suns should be going in this direction?
You mean the Spurs?
The Spurs, sorry. What team did I say?
I think Suns.
Oh, yeah, Spurs.
I got this one's tough because the Spurs have also been rebuilding through the draft and some trades, and they have some good young players in Murray and Keldon Johnson. But if I'm the Spurs, I think I take Saddiq Bey, just because knowing that organization, they can develop the hell out of him. Like reading up on Saddiq Bey and stuff, a lot of scouts think he's reached his ceiling, which was kind of the consensus with Kawhi when he was coming into the league. Like he wouldn't get much better, and that he was really raw and just could only play defense and eventually maybe become just 3-and-D. But now you see the development the Spurs gave to Kawhi and like how they helped him grow as a player. I think they could do exactly that with Saddiq Bey, who's 6'8", super long. He basically fits the perfect 3-and-D wing in this league.
Do you not think they already have that in a guy like Lonnie Walker? That's kind of like, I know he's a guard, but like, kind of like that long, 3-and-D type of player.
That's my issue, is that Lonnie's a guard, because Lonnie's about 6'5", 6'6".
Mm-hmm.
So, and then Keldon Johnson is also 6'5", so they have to figure that clogging right there. I don't think you want to play Lonnie at the small forward. It'd be tough for him to guard a lot of these bigger wings in the league.
Yeah.
So that's why I would go with Saddiq, is because they could play him as like a playmaking wing, but first starting off with 3 and D, or they could play him as like a small ball scoring power forward, something.
Yeah,
Especially knowing they want to flip DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah, I mean, like with DeMar DeRozan kind of rumored to either stay or go. Like we'll see what happens with his scenario. I think the San Antonio Spurs here go for a European player, and that is of course Denny, who I still have on the board.
Ooh, okay.
I think
that's a good fit.
I think Denny would be a perfect fit for this team. A guy that's a playmaker, like you said. Could be the next maybe not as good as Manu Ginobili, but could be like a great kind of Manu Ginobili type of player. Is a guy that can be a secondary ball handler. And like you talked about, Brad, like definitely not athletic, definitely not someone that you'll see, staying in front of somebody defensively. But I think that he is going to be a player that, is a decent shooter, but more of a playmaker. And I think the Spurs are really looking for that next playmaker. And I think that if Danny was able to stay on there, I think he would actually do a really good job.
That's a good shout out. I think the Spurs would swoop him up instantly. He fits that organization perfectly.
And then let's move on to let's move on to a very dysfunctional organization. This organization, I don't even know what to say about them. The Sacramento Kings.
Draft whoever.
Sacramento Kings. What do they need? Where do they go? They, to me, seem like they are lost.
They're completely lost. I can't believe they traded Bogdan Bogdanovic for basically nothing. And they got Dante DiVincenzo back, and that was the only piece that they'll use.
Ugh.
Which doesn't even make sense considering you have Buddy Hield. I know he's unhappy, but even then, the return they got for Bogdanovic was just terrible. If I'm De'Aaron Fox, I'm sad. I feel sorry for you, De'Aaron. But they need everything but a point guard. If I'm the Kings, I guess we draft Devin Vassell, knowing that we're gonna lose Buddy. He doesn't want to be there. He'll probably force his way out, and knowing we just traded Bogdanovic, you need to fill that backcourt mate for De'Aaron Fox. I think Devin Vassell can do that, mostly because of the jumper and the length. He's 6'7". He's big. I'd go Devin Vassell.
Yeah, I think like you said, Brad, like the Sacramento Kings are such a dysfunctional organization that it's actually frustrating to watch them, see where they become, with that, I think with that exciting team in 2002 when they were battling the Lakers and it was like a fun NBA matchup, like just rewatching those games is a lot of fun. But to see where they've come from there to where they're at now, I think that team would just be ashamed of what this team has become. And so, they have a lot of things to go after, and I think I was one of those guys. I will say it here, and I will keep harping on it. I think they should have taken Luka Doncic over Marvin Bagley. I'm not a huge Bagley fan myself, but I think that's where they should have went. But that's neither here nor there. That we're focused on this draft, and I think they take a Bay here at this point. I think they need to add some more shooting. They got rid of Bogdanovic, who is a forward that was a good shooter. Bay is kind of regarded as one of the better shooters in this draft. And so I think Bay could be a great fit here as kind of like the Bogdanovic replacement.
Okay. But they have Harrison Barnes at the small forward position too. And they have Jabari Parker.
They just need to get rid of Harrison Barnes. It's time. Oh, Harfy, you kind of missed our talk. I think both of us had different number ones. I had LaMelo Ball. My friend Brad here, my boy Brad here, he got Anthony Edwards as his number one pick for this draft. But let's move on to the Pelicans. The Pelicans made some interesting moves. Obviously, they got rid of Drew Holiday. There's now some positions to fill. Brad, it just seems like because they got Eric Bledsoe, it maybe the writing's on the wall for Lonzo. I think maybe Lonzo, he might be gone, man.
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to trade him, which is heartbreaking because I just think he needs more time. But I understand. Like, he was pretty disappointing in the bubble. It was actually hard watching him play basketball in the bubble.
Yeah. Which sucks because I did have Lonzo as kind of like my most improved player before the pandemic hit and before like everything closed down. Like he was
balling.
He was balling. He was looking to be like most improved player, and then all of a sudden, as soon as the league shut down, I don't know if he didn't play basketball or what happened. It didn't click for him, unfortunately. So Now that we know that, the Pelicans are looking to make some moves. Brad, who did the New Orleans Pelicans take at number 13?
I think they got to draft Jalen Smith out of Maryland. Um, Knowing that with their roster right now, I mean, they have Derek Favors down there and Jahlil Okafor, who barely gets playing time. Jackson Hayes is a good young player, but he's not. I guess I haven't kept up with him recently, but he's not big enough to be an NBA center right now, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think so you might as well go with Jalen Smith, get a good power forward. I'm hoping they don't play Zion at power forward. If they're playing Zion at power forward, they probably won't take Jalen Smith, but I really hope they play Zion at small forward. You could pair Jalen Smith next to him. He has a decent jump shot.
Yeah, I think that the Pelicans right now are kind of like in this weird.
They should trade that pick too if they can. If we're being honest, they have a lot of rebuilding pieces already. I would just trade that pick.
Yeah, Angelo, you can see the draft tomorrow. At I believe it's at 5 p.m. on ESPN. So that is when the draft is going to be held. Is at 5 p.m. I might. No, I can't do a watch party. I got basketball training to attend, so unfortunately can't do that tomorrow. But yeah, it's just kind of going back to the 13th pick, Brad. The Pelicans. I think this is where they take Lewis Jr. A guy that can do everything. I think I kind of picked where ESPN picked, just because I think, like you talked about, Brad, kind of a speedy guard that can shoot, dribble, do a lot of different things. I think that he really. I mean, if that's the direction that the Pelicans want to go in, where they want to go back and forth, up and down with Zion Williamson kind of running the break at whatever position that they play him at, then I think that's where they go.
Yeah, break my heart, but I guess it makes sense. He fits small ball perfectly, so you could play him at the power forward.
Yeah. And then Angelo, it's at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so about 8 p.m. your time if you're in the East Coast or wherever you're living. So it's 8 on the East Coast, 5 on the West Coast. But yeah, let's move on to number 14, a team that the Boston Celtics are here in this position. Obviously, with the Trust the Process 2.0 over here in Boston. Where do you think the Celtics go in this pick?
I have them trading that pick also. At least I think they should. But for this one, I say R.J. Hampton. Just knowing that they're looking to trade Kemba, and R.J. is, he's a bigger guard. He can fill out. He's explosive. Obviously, you don't want R.J. Hampton out there trying to win a championship with Tatum, Brown, and Smart. But just for team fit purposes, I guess they would take him.
Yeah, I think we're obviously going to be trading away this pick. I don't think we're going to be keeping it. But I think if you had to take somebody here, I think it has to be some sort of power forward center combo. And I think Jalen Smith is actually the guy they go for. I like his ability. I like his length. Defensively, as a stopper. Offensively, we could see a little bit more growth and development there. But I do like him as sort of a player that could potentially be a really good center, backup center, whatever they decide to do there. I think that's where they should be going, in that direction.
Yeah, they desperately need somebody like him down there. But they do have Robert Williams and Tice. Semi Ojeleye takes up a lot of power forward minutes too.
Yeah, I mean it's just that bench right now. They need to trade away and get some more good bench players. Because they got Romeo Langford last year when we were supposed to take Tyler Hero, but
yeah,
but it's neither here nor there. I'm not upset.
You don't sound upset at all, bro.
No, I'm not salty at all about it. But nevertheless, we're here where we're at right now. So the Boston Celtics, to me, they take Jalen Smith, and let's move on to number 15, the Orlando Magic. They seem to be another team that's kind of in this purgatory. They got to the playoffs last year. They have Vucevic. They have Aaron Gordon. Jonathan Isaac, I think, is recovering from his ACL injury, if I'm not mistaken. Where does this team go?
So this one, I got one of my sleeper picks in the draft. They're going to take Jaden McDaniels, homegrown out of the Washington.
Jaden McDaniels, okay.
Yeah, he fits their the profile of their team perfectly. He's 6'10", he's super long, athletic, just like Aaron Gordon, Jonathan Isaac, Mo Bamba. And I think they take him as insurance for Jonathan Isaac because this is the second time Isaac's had a major injury. So at this point, you're not looking at him as a serious piece anymore. Like you are, but if he doesn't come back the same, you have Jaden McDaniels.
Right.
And then he is, he's one of the more, he has one of the more higher ceilings in this draft. You know, like if he can piece it together, his ceiling is like literally a baby KD. So I think Jaden McDaniels fits that Magic team perfectly. They have Markelle Fultz, who's coming into his own role. It'd be a nice little rebuild.
Yeah. Ramen, the draft is actually tomorrow. I thought I titled this mock draft. Yeah. So I titled this mock draft, but the draft is actually tomorrow at 5 p.m. West Coast time, and that'll be 8 p.m. East Coast time. So yeah, we've had a couple of people kind of say that. I thought, hopefully I didn't clickbait people with NBA mock. But yeah, kind of going back to what you said about the Orlando Magic, they're kind of in this predicament where I think they should develop some guard play, and I think that someone I feel like they might be taking at this point is going to be Vassell, the guy out of Florida State, kind of a 3-and-D type of player. I think they like the Markelle Fultz is progressing well and he's developing well. But I think that Vessel could be another guard that they might take and see if they can, do something with him. Evan Fournier might be a free agent at this point. So I think that's where the Orlando Magic go, in my opinion.
Makes sense. I like it. Fournier did just opt into his contract, actually.
Ooh, okay.
Opted into his player option.
So, he might be staying there, but, I think that I think that adding him, just as an insurance policy in case Fournier decides to leave or is like, you know what, I want out of here. Yeah. I think that's where they go. But now let's move on to another trade that happened. Portland trading away this pick, giving it to the Houston Rockets. That is, of course, the 16th pick. Brad, where did the Houston Rockets go in this with this pick? I think this is kind of another intriguing one, in my opinion.
I mean, honestly, they could draft anybody because they need it. They're about to blow everything up. So I guess if I'm the Rockets, we really want to draft one of the most talented players left in this draft. So I would go with Tyrese Maxey.
Knowing Maxey.
If he is talented, I love his game. He's a bigger guard, 6'3", 6'4", pretty bulky. He's not the most quick guard, but his game is sound. He can finish really well. His jump shot is solid. He's a good playmaker. I think he's more of in between playmaking and scoring than just full on scoring. He's no Kobe White.
Gotcha.
So.
Yeah. Ramen, yeah, sorry, man. Sorry to disappoint you, but yeah, the draft is actually tomorrow. So you guys you're in Norway, so you're ahead of us. But yeah, the draft is tomorrow. So that'll be the 18th in our time. So about 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when the draft is. So just a heads up. I think they say it's today, Ramen, because you're ahead of day. So because you're ahead of day, they're saying it's actually today. And so I think that's where the confusion is. So I'm sorry about that, man. Hopefully you can go to bed now and watch the draft tomorrow. Get a good shut eye because tomorrow's going to be actually a fun day, free agency wise and also draft wise. But sorry, Brad. Let me get back to the 16th pick here. I think I agree with you, dude. I think Tyrese Maxey is a player that most talented in this league, and to be honest with you, Brad, he kind of has shades of that Devin Booker, where a lot of people were like, "Why did you take him?" Or even a Jamal Murray, one of those could be a sneaky good player in the near future. So I really do like Tyrese Maxey in the spot. The one thing that concerns me about him is that his jump shot, he shoots it about at his face.
Yeah.
Rather than a little bit above his head. You don't need necessarily need to have it way above your head, but at least at your eyebrow. And to be on, and the frustrating thing with him is that his release point is basically right at his face, and not a little bit higher. Which I think that if he wants to be successful in this league, either that jumper has to be really quick or he has to elevate his jumper a little bit. So, but like you said, Brad, I think Tyrese Maxey has the real deal. He can finish around the rim. He's a great player. And I think, like I said, he might be one of them. He might be one of those sleeper players in this draft where, like, you'll look at a couple years later and be like, how did he fall so low to this point at 16? And that's a James Harden replacement right there, and you could potentially build off of Tyrese Maxey in the near future if he develops the way I think he's going to.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then we'll finish out the top 20. You know what? I think we're good at this point. I mean, unless there's other things that you want to talk about in this point. Is there any?
I have a couple sleepers in the draft.
Okay, let's hear your sleepers, because I think at this point, we've kind of gone over kind of like that lottery team where like we could potentially be seeing some different moves. So give me your sleepers, Brad.
All right, my first sleeper is Zeke Naji out of Arizona.
Ooh, okay.
I think Toronto picks him up, and he's super athletic. He's young. He's only 19. I think he'll have a long career in the NBA, and he fits the Raptors perfectly, especially if Gasol leaves to go to Spain, like he said he was thinking about. What's my other sleeper?
And before you say your next sleeper, Brad, to everybody, the official NBA draft starts tomorrow, Wednesday, November 18th, in the United States at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's going to be 4 o'clock. That's going to be 4 o'clock on the East Coast. So the draft is going to start on Wednesday, November 18th at 4 o'clock Western or the Pacific Coast. So on the East Coast, it starts at 7 p.m. So just want to highlight for you guys that are asking in the chat, it starts Wednesday, November 18th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So Brad, sorry to interrupt you. Let me know the rest of your sleepers, man.
No worries. Another one I got is Desmond Bane out of TCU. I've been watching a lot of this guy play, and he's built like Russell Westbrook. It's crazy. He's huge. He's athletic. But he's smart. He really thinks the game too. So it's a pretty interesting combo. That kind of body and size. He's a 6'6" point guard, but with somebody that really thinks the game. So I like Desmond Bane in this draft. I think he's a little too low on most draft boards. I've seen him like 24 through 28.
Mm-hmm.
I think he could probably be somewhere in the like 12 to 18 range, really realistically. And then my other sleeper, homegrown, Washington, Malachi Flynn. He had San Diego State hooping this year until the pandemic hit. But he's another playmaking guard who I think will stick in the league just because of his IQ. Good shooter, can space the floor, good ball handler, and the playmaking is huge. And he can get better defensively. He's kind of limited by his size. He's 6'2" with like short arms. But just with his IQ and speed, he'll get better defensively once he's been in the league for a while.
Yeah, I mean, those are all great picks. I mean, when we think about sleepers, all those guys kind of have those remnants of sleepers. And Ramen, I know that you just joined us. My top three, and then Brad, you can give your top three really quick before I kind of talk about the players I'm interested in this draft. So my number one was LaMelo Ball. Number two is James Wiseman, and then Anthony Edwards was number three. And then Brad, who did you have as your top three?
It was Anthony Edwards, James Wiseman, and Onyeka Okongwu.
All right. You guys heard it here first. But let's move on to kind of what players I'm kind of looking at that might be interesting. One player, Brad, that I think we need to talk about because his stock has really fallen since the beginning of the year, and it's probably one of the biggest falls I think I've ever seen. And that's Cole Anthony.
Oh, I knew it.
Brad, I know that we talked about it yesterday on my stream. We kind of talked about he got labeled as a bad teammate, and that's kind of the reputation that is around his head going into this year. Why do you think Cole Anthony fell so far down the draft?
I just don't think. I feel like if he had been drafted in 2000, he would have been a lottery pick. But since the game has evolved from short scoring guards to playmaking, scoring wings, I just don't really see him fitting the NBA in this era. He's not much of a playmaker. He really likes to get his own shot consistently. He's not that big. He's 6'3" and really wiry. The athleticism is great, but that can only translate so much. The decision making isn't good. And hearing he was a bad teammate also really hurts his stock, considering he doesn't fit this era. So,
yeah, I mean, the thing that's kind of frustrating, or I would say sad about Cole Anthony, is that, like we talked about, he took a year off to go play at Oak Hill Academy, try and prove his draft stock, try to grow and develop into a different player. And I think, unfortunately for him, he just kind of falls into, like you said, he's just born in the wrong era. Like, if he was born in the 2000s, he would definitely be a player that I could see being a top lottery pick. But I think also, too, with Cole Anthony, that I think is a little bit unfair is that I think his teammates weren't necessarily as good in North Carolina as they were in previous years. And I think Cole Anthony kind of had to put the load and the weight of the team on his back. And so I think with him, I want to see what team is willing to give him a chance in this league. I think that he obviously will, because he will get drafted, but it depends on what team he goes to, because I think if he goes to the right team, he actually could be a decent fit as like kind of that off the bench scorer, maybe like an Isaiah Thomas like type of player. But the IQ is just kind of the one thing that is my pause for concern, is because I think
and he's also not good defensively.
Yeah, he's not good defensively, but I think when he gets double teamed, he panics with the ball. He doesn't really pass it to the right players, and that ultimately cost him some games and cost him some stats that I think that he wish he could have had back. But I don't know.
Exactly.
I mean, this will be a very interesting scenario. I think another player that I haven't talked about is, of course, Jaden McDaniels. I think you talked about him. You hit the point and the nail right on the head, Brad. I think that he actually could be a really good player in this league, as someone that could grow and develop. But let's talk about some other players that kind of had some heat or kind of had some praise. Josh Green out of Arizona. Do you like his pickup? Do you like him growing and developing, or what do you think about him?
I like Josh Green. I think I think he kind of gets hit by this weak draft class just because he's a part of it. People are forgetting like the potential there. He's 6'6". His shot isn't terrible. It's smooth. He can slash really well. He's athletic. He's the perfect archetype for somebody in the NBA. When you look at a wing, you see a Josh Green body and everything. He's big. He's tall. I think he has potential to be a decent starting guard. Not an all-star or anything, but a really good role player.
Yeah, that's kind of where I have Josh Green. It's kind of like a good role-playing guard that is a starter on the team, but he's gonna have to find his niche. Did I say that right? Niche. His niche. I'm butchering words now. That's how you know the stream has gone too long for me. But I think like he can find his niche or his niche somewhere as kind of like a defensive guard, make his name on defense and get breakaways. And I think that he could be a player that could live up to like 7 to 8 years in this league, just doing that. And I think that he's his body, like you said, your typical prototypical kind of big guard, if you will. So, we'll see where his growth and development goes. And then Ramen, I guess we didn't really say this question, Brad, but do you think Danny Avdija is a bust, or do you think that he's got some room to grow and improve?
It's tough. I think he's got some room to grow and improve. I wouldn't say he's going to be a bust just because he's been so talented in the EuroLeague for so long.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same agreement. Oh, what were you going to say, Brad?
Yeah. I was going to say we've seen it before with other players, but like, I feel like the game is different. It's not the same as it was in 2000. A lot of these EuroLeague guys have learned from their other EuroLeague players' past mistakes. They know what they need to do once they get into the NBA. They're preparing for it, and depending on what team he goes to, he can learn how to grow the right way and be a good player.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Danny Avdija, I think his thing is like playmaking, and I think that'll never go out of style. Like we talked about, a playmaking wing. And so this league is all about playmaking wings. Hedo Turkoglu, kind of that someone that could handle the ball. And so I think that he's going to be a player that I could potentially see just not being a bust, but not necessarily being like a a player that you're like, oh, I'm so glad I have Danny Aveja on my team. He's going to be a guy that's like, yeah, he's a good like kind of guy that's a third, second ball handler on my team that can get relief pressure for some of those point guards. And so I had him going to the San Antonio Spurs as kind of like a Manu Ginobili reincarnation. But that's just kind of where I've had him. And then Brad, I think another player that kind of fell in this draft is Theo Meldon. I think he was a guy that came out of France. I think a lot of people had high hopes and expectations for him. And ultimately they just didn't pan out, and now he's projected to go 26 to the Boston Celtics. I don't know if you've watched much of his game. Do you know much about him? Like what's your opinion on Theo?
I haven't watched a lot, but I've watched some film on him. He's a pretty smart player. But yeah, I can see why his draft stock went down. Probably because like the pandemic hit, but also he just hasn't, I guess he hasn't shown what scouts are looking for. He's not all that like athletic. He's not like super good at one thing.
Yeah.
But he is young, so there's room for him to grow. He's 19. He's been playing with pros since he was 16. I think he can grow and be a decent starting point guard.
Yeah, I just think that there's too many inconsistencies with his games to be like a consensus like top 10 pick. But he could be a guy that could potentially grow into something, maybe be a nice role playing type of guard. But I think that Theo is going to have to really, really prove that his game has developed. And I think that is going to be a project. I think he's going to have to work his way through the G League and kind of build his way up. And we'll see what happens with him. But I think it's an exciting time to be an NBA fan right now. We got a lot of players. We have one question here from Supreme Gamer. Any thoughts on Nico Mannion?
Ooh, he was close to being one of my favorite sleeper picks, but I think he'll stick in the NBA just because of his IQ. He's really smart and he's a good playmaker. Even though if he's limited by his athletic ability.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I noticed when I watched him play live. So our team went down to Palm Springs to play in the tournament, and his team was obviously in the higher division than us. And I think that's kind of the one thing that I noticed when he played against who's the kid going to Kentucky right now that played at Mater Day? What is his name?
Point guard?
Point guard, yeah. Let me look this up. This is actually going to frustrate me because let me look this up. Oh my goodness. So many ads. Where is he? Oh man, this is actually really frustrating because I want to
I'm trying to find him too. Brandon Boston? No. Oh, Devin Askew.
Devin Askew, thank you. That's it. So I watched him play against Devin Askew in that tournament, and I think Nico Mannion, even though he played really well, and obviously he's a senior compared to Askew, who's a sophomore at the time, but I think he's like really a junior. But I think what I noticed in that game is that Nico Mannion athletically is just not there compared to a guy like Devin Askew, who's athletic and actually has the ability and other things like that. So I think Nico, like you said, will definitely be in this league. I think the IQ is something that will keep him in this league, but I think that athleticism might hinder him to the point where I'm not sure if he's going to be able to stay around in this league for a very long time, but I think he will be able to get a couple years out of him IQ-wise. But that is just kind of my opinion. I do think that Nico Mannion needs to improve in some areas. I think shot selection was kind of his issue, at least in high school. Maybe college was a little different.
Even in college.
So if he can really, get that IQ up in terms of like shot selection, then I think that he actually could stay in this league very long. But at this point, I don't see him staying he's here for a good time, not a long time,
Yeah.
But other than that, Brad, is there anybody else that is kind of catching your eye?
Yeah, I almost forgot. There's two more. Peyton Pritchard is
yes.
really one of
Yep.
my favorite X factors. I've been watching him play with these NBA players, and he is killing these people, absolutely killing them. The jumper is all there. It's money. You can't leave him open. The basketball IQ is through the roof. He makes the right play almost every time. It's really actually pretty and amazing to watch. So yeah, I say Peyton Pritchard. I think whatever team finds him on their roster, they've got a nice little X factor there. He's a sleeper for sure. Even though if he's limited athletically, he's so smart and thinks the game so well. He knows what to do with his hands on defense, where to slide. Like he is a good player for sure.
Yeah, man. Like I love Peyton Pritchard. I love Peyton Pritchard because I remember like, and this is another tournament story, but we played in the Oregon tournament. Probably it was my second year coaching, and like I talked to him a little bit on the side and like his IQ and just kind of like getting to know him a little bit more. Like he's very personable, but I think like you talked about the basketball IQ, it's like it's literally insane how good he is like IQ wise, that he's able to be in the right positions at the right time, because this game is more than just being athletic. Like athletic can only get you so far, but if you have the smarts and you have the IQ to match the athleticism, then you're like obviously you're a superstar player. But I think Pritchard with his IQ is going to keep him in the league for a very long time, and I think that he could stay in this league for 10 years, 10 to 12 years if he plays it right. Continues to grow and develop.
I totally agree.
But yeah, Peyton Pritchard to me another one of my favorites. Do you have one more, Brad?
Yeah, my last one is CJ Ellaby, homegrown as well. He went to Wazoo.
Yeah.
Played at high school. Did he play at? He played at
Cleveland
High School.
Cleveland, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember scouting him.
Yeah, I think he's really talented. He's tall, 6'7". He's been in the weight room, getting a little stronger. He's got a really nice game, like almost a complete package scoring wise. He can score at all three levels, finish, get to the cup, shoot the three. He's shifty. He can pass a little bit. I think he'll have a better, at Wazoo, who could he really pass to? But in the NBA, I think the playmaking is there. So yeah, I like CJ Ellaby a lot. I think they have him going 30th on some websites, but I think whatever team gets him, if he manages to go earlier, 30th, whatever, he's finding a good player in him.
Interesting. I didn't realize that Kenny Martin Jr. is declaring for the draft.
Wait, for this year or next year?
For this year.
What?
Very interesting.
When did he declare?
Let's see here. I think there was news of it. Where is it? USA Today. I have it here on the channel right now. Kenny Martin Jr., son of former number 1 overall pick, declares for the 2020 draft. Yeah. I'm not really sure about this one. I feel like it's way too early for him.
It's definitely too early. He should have gone to college. Did he go to college?
No, he played at IMG Academy.
Right? Okay. Yeah, I don't know why he's declaring. I don't know why so many of these kids are in such a rush to stifle their own careers and development, but fuck, I guess just off his athleticism, I have to have him in like the first round. Just off his athleticism.
Yeah, I mean it'd be
that boy
interesting.
can fly.
It'd be interesting to see where he goes, man. Like I know that he's like according to these mock drafts, rumored to go in the second round, 50th to the Atlanta Hawks. That's kind of where they have him going. Other guys that also that we should mention, Cassius Winston, I think also another player that gets forgotten a little bit. Also Trey Jones out of Duke.
His draft stock fell.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the draft process, but it seems like there's something that a lot of owners and teams are just like, we do not want this guy. I don't know what it is.
I think a lot of them are looking for shooting and IQ these days, which is crazy because it used to just be, like I said earlier, Cole Anthony in 2000 would have gone as a lottery pick. People would have been salivating at a scoring guard like him. But now these days they've switched and they're like, okay, we need smart players, we need defense, we need shooting. So I feel, Trey Jones struggles offensively, so even with the defense, I feel like that's why his draft stock dropped.
And then another player here, Cassius Stanley. I know that he was kind of a standout. I think earlier he was like in the first round. Now he's at number 53 to the Thunder. That's a huge fall.
He got hurt.
He got hurt? That's probably why.
Yeah, he got hurt in the season. Yeah, he broke his foot, I'm pretty sure.
I hope he's not like for his sake, I hope he doesn't unless he's like going to the G League, but I don't know if he should really be declaring for the draft.
Yeah. A lot of these guys do that. I don't know why. It's like that Trayvon Duvall move. Trayvon Duvall declared way too early. Some of these guys need to be patient and just get better.
Yeah, I think a lot of these players kind of see their agents or their families kind of realize like, hey, you can go to the league, you can make money. But I think you're right, Brad. I think these players need to like, as much as it sucks to say, they either need to go to the G League or they need to develop really well in their college teams and just like. You're sacrificing a year making money, but you could at worst, you're staying in the same position that you're at. I mean, obviously,
exactly.
Each player is different and, everybody's window is just completely different. But there's a lot of these players, I think if they would, or maybe they're declaring now because they know that these next couple of draft classes are actually going to be really good and they're worried that they're not going to get drafted at all.
That could be it. They do know they have a better chance in this draft class, so. I guess if it was between going undrafted and just trying to stick your foot in the door, I guess I'd stick my foot in the door. But...
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here because I think ultimately I think if your skill and your talent is good enough, then I think you should be able to go another year playing college basketball and you'll get drafted either the same or higher. But like I talked about earlier, with the draft class coming up in these next 2 years, even 3 years, to be honest with you, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to get your foot in the door, especially with Amani Bates, man. Oh, that kid is so good.
He's a beast. He's so good. That game with him and Chet Holmgren was showtime, straight showtime.
I know. I rewatched that game a little bit to kind of do a film dissection on those guys. So
Amani's shot selection is terrible, but I feel it. You were on TV. Go off.
Yeah, exactly. But other than that, Brad, do you have anything else to kind of add before we sign off? I'm just gonna do a quick NBA Twitter look around while you talk to the fans out there.
Let's see. I got one more semi-sleeper. I would say Udoka Azubuike is a semi-sleeper. Really, really big center. He's got some touch, decent touch around the rim. And if he can expand his shooting game, I think he'll be a nice starting center or backup center in this league just because of his sheer size. He's a big boy and not super slow. He can actually run up and down the court.
Trying to see here. There's some.
He's got a 7'7" wingspan too, so I like that about him. He could really help out a team defensively.
Looks like they're doing another play-in game this year. According to the NBA, they kind of announced their structuring of the 2020-21 format. So it looks like we will be getting that play-in game again, Brad. We're going to be getting that 9-10 play-in game for some reason. Or sorry, that 8-9 play-in game.
So if you're the 8th seed, you're never safe anymore. Wow. I like it. It's good because generally in the West, at least, the 8th seed is pretty close. So
let's see here. So the team with the 7th highest and the 8th highest winning percentage in each conference will each have 2 opportunities to win one game to earn a playoff spot. The team with the 9th highest and the 10th highest for winning percentages in each conference will have to win 2 consecutive games to earn a playoff spot. Wow, so the 7th and 8th seed are no longer safe.
Yeah, damn. That's crazy. I think that's good. It's more entertaining and teams will play harder in the regular season to avoid that position.
Yeah. So let me continue reading. So at the conclusion of the regular season, the team with the 7th highest winning percentage in each conference will host a game with the 8th highest winning percentage in the conference in a play-in 7-8 game. The winner of the 7-8 game in each conference will be the 7th seed in its playoff conference. The team with the 9th highest winning percentage in each conference will host the team with the 10th winning higher percentage in each conference in a playing game the 9-10 game. The loser of the 7-8 will host the winner of the 9-10 playing game, and the winner of the game will be the 8th high seed in the playoffs for its conference. Whew. That was a mouthful.
That'd be so much fun to watch. It was so much fun this past year with the Pelicans and the Suns and Grizzlies playing for that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun. And I think that's kind of what I think, like you said, I think that's kind of the point of adding that. And so hopefully this will kind of inspire teams like, okay, we need to be safe. Let's try and get top 6, and not try and fall into that 7-8 where it seems like there's some sort of situation there. Hey Tyrese, how you doing, man? We're probably going to be ending the live stream relatively soon, Tyrese. So rewatch this one and leave some comments, man. I want to get your opinion on not only our mock draft, but we did an hour of free agency. So the first hour is free agency, and then the second hour is all in mock draft, all the way up to I think 16 is where we got to. And then we kind of talked about some sleepers and all that other stuff. So check that out once I'm done live streaming here. But other than that, Brad, I'm not really seeing any news unless your sources are telling you differently.
No, that's all I got.
All right. That is going to do it here, guys, on The Charge. Thank you once again, Brad, for joining me here on the channel. Really appreciate your commentary. Really appreciate your insights to the game. It's definitely eye-opening for me as someone that's a coach, but also as someone that loves to hoop. Still love to learn the knowledge. And so we might have to come back on, Brad, at some point and kind of do a draft analysis or even talk more free agency news. I'd love to kind of talk some more of that stuff with you and kind of figure out, like, you know, what teams are doing, like what's the situation looking like. But do you have any last words to say to the fans or anything you want to shout out before we sign off?
James Harden to the Nets won't happen.
Won't happen. Okay.
It won't happen. And if it does, my voice is going. I'm tired. Wow.
Yeah.
if it does, LeBron is going to spank them in the finals.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those things where I don't think the Nets are going to do really well. But anyway, guys, like I said, thank you once again, Brad, for joining me here on The Charge. Again, giving you guys NBA news and rumors of free agency. It's like Christmas. It's like Christmas in a package right now if you're an NBA fan. Tyrese, I will be streaming tomorrow, but it will be a late stream and not for very long because I do I have some basketball training that I want to do, that I need to do, actually. Not want to, need, well, both. But I do need to do that. I need to work out as well, but it will be a late night stream. I think I'm probably going to getting on around maybe 8:30 my time. So I don't know where you live, Tyrese, but I'm going to plan on being on around like 8:30. So if you're willing to watch me at that time, I'm willing to live stream at that time. But anyway, guys, thank you again, Brad, for joining me here on The Charge. Got his last words already. Brad, like I said, thank you once again, man, for joining me. It was a lot of fun doing this.
Thank you for having me.
We're both tired. We're both tired right now. We're both probably hungry. I don't know about you, Brad, but I'm starving right now.
I'm starving.
But anyway, guys, we'll catch you on the next one. We'll catch you later. Peace.
Peace.